Welcome back to continuing coverage of the iRacing.com 2015 Petit Le Mans here on Racesport TV. Rachel Whiteford joined by Johnny Simone and Cam Walsh. We are heading into now hour number 4 of this race so far. Just under 6 hours remaining, so we're approaching halfway now, and well, it's been exciting so far. Johnny, to catch you up, we've had trials and tribulations, we've had excitement, we've had heartbreak. Radicals Online dominant from the start. They dropped out pretty early, they got involved, the back marker hurt them badly. They are now down in Petit after having to take repairs. Damaged suspension. We've lost TMA Endurance, GTR Team Purple, Ford Autosports, Sim Racing Maniacs, Pure Racing Team, Abandonati Racing Team, iRacing and UL Motorsports from the prototype field. Also CTC Red, VSR, Road to Le Mans, NT Racing Gold from your GT field. So it's been an eventful 4 hours so far here at Road America. Not Road America, Road Atlanta. That's the one I'm going for. I was about to say Le Mans. It's not. It's the Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta. But so far, Vortex Sim Racing leading from Autobahn Motorsports. Only 2 cars on the lead lap of this race so far. Racer Commander Sim Sport, a dominant performance, 2 laps ahead of their nearest rival, Red Devolution Racing, in second place in the GT class. Behind them is One Row Sim Sport GT. Third place is 1 lap down in the prototypes. That's 7-3 Motorsports. We are frantic, we're busy, it's exciting, there is so much going on here, guys. Johnny, what do you think so far?
It's good to see another endurance event here out in iRacing. 10 hours for this one. 24-hour events next year, even more of them, which should be nice as well. So what I'm disappointed in is that Radicals Online car. You know, catching up on the event while I was commentating for the WCS, is that they always caught up in incidents for every endurance race that they're in. You know, not every one of them, but most of them, and I think they've got potential. You know, we know how strong their World Championship team is in the Road Series, but their endurance team at the moment has a lot of potential, but they just get into too many incidents in these endurance races, and they're only 4 hours into this one, and they've already been caught up in catastrophic incidents. As you can see, that car is severely damaged, so it's been repaired a little bit at the moment. But anyway, 8 laps down on the lead, and who knows how this event will end. You know, if they can make up a lap per hour at the moment, they could maybe even pick off a podium.
Absolutely. Well, certainly been a busy event, and Radicals have always been in this position. We expect a lot from them, and they can often have disappointing incidents where things fall back. Don't forget, folks, if you are in any of the splits today for this race, up onto the Racesport TV TeamSpeak. Don't forget to put in your team name and your split, and your username, and we'll try and get you an interview. Talk about how your race is going. So that's top split and any other split you want to talk about. So come on over, tell us how your race is going. Get involved in the YouTube chat. Get involved in Twitter, and that's the hashtag iRacing Le Mans. So send us a tweet there and chat to us on YouTube. Let's get some dialogue going with the fans. Also, don't forget Racesport TV /timing, where you can get full live timing of the race so far in this split. But one thing we are going to fire off, which is something I always enjoy doing, as we keep our eyes now on that 27 machine Phoenix Moonshine McLaren. A far cry from the New World SimSport Moonshine car we're grown so used to seeing. But that team has, of course, merged with Phoenix Motorsports. It's a potent outfit now. Like I said before, let's get this kicked off, as it's my hour now. Will can't stop me. Let's get involved with the Ask Us Anything hour here on the broadcast. Yeah. When I say anything within the iRacing Sporting Code, don't get cheeky.
God.
Ask us your questions, and we will do our best to give you answers live on air. Sensible questions. But yeah, Johnny, so what do you think so far? Vortex, they've really got the pace for this one. Do you think that car in one piece? But she ahead of Autobahn. Autobahn, of course, were, before you came back on here, far back as 40 seconds off the lead. Now it's down to 12.
Well, Billy Smith's been in that car for basically right around 2 billion years, So as soon as he continues onto his stint, either he's lapping really fast at the moment. Obviously, 1 minute 12.3 last time around, 2/10 down on Tim Bertie, but that gap right around 10-15 minutes ago was around 15 seconds. So now it's 11.5. So we look at, we have to analyze the situation. Vortex at the moment have carried on Tim Bertie in that vehicle for right around 20 laps at the moment. Is Tim that guy that's going to fill in these laps for you in these hours where he's just going to consistently get the car around the course, pass drivers, cleanly? He's not going to be the fastest out there, but then towards the end of the race, are Vortex going to field their fast drivers to gain that time back? This is where they need to think. Do they need to pull Tim out of the car? Maybe he's struggling at the moment, or maybe indeed Billy Smith's just doing a better job than Tim, and Tim's pushing to the limit.
Having a look at the pit stop times for these drivers, of course, Billy Smith was into the pits last 13 laps ago. It's more like 18 laps ago for Tim Bertie in that Vortex Sim Racing prototype, so not too far off in terms of sequence, but we're definitely seeing a bit more performance there from the guys with I apologise with, I'm going to use the English language, eventually, Autobahn Motorsports. They have definitely picked up the pace. They were, as I said, quite a way back, 40-50 seconds. That's been reeled in now, and it's a big improvement for them. As I believe we have one of the GT field on pit road. That is the Core Sim Racing Road Warrior team, number 15, with Malik Push behind the wheel of that car. He's out, and that'll be Yuri Gamilkon into that car for them. Of course, that vehicle damaged early on with a spin out of turn number 5. But they are back and fighting. Currently sitting in 6th position in that GT field. They are 2 laps back from your division leader, your class leader, which is Franda, of course, Franda Racer Coranda Simsport. Language tonight isn't my strong point, folks. Tired. But Core Sim Racing in a good spot right now. Definitely in a position, Johnny, to pick up some spots should things go wrong ahead of them. Yeah,
certainly so. That's what endurance racing is about. It's a long-term gain, long-term goals in this event. So, still waiting in that pit box, out on the way for Yuri Gamilkon, and he's a consistent driver in that vehicle right now. And he's, look at that, swerving already, trying to get used to it. His first time out this event in that Core Sim Racing GT car. So right there, first time out on track this event, 5 hours and 50 minutes remaining for Yuri, and he's a couple of cars behind him trying to lap him at the moment. And who is that? That's Michel Garnier. You like my French? 10 out of 10.
Very good French there from you, Johnny. That's the 26 Pro Racing France car. Of course, that was the one that spun in front of the Radicals Online machine and damaged them. So it's a major problem. It was caused for those guys, but they are still fighting and running around down in P8 in your prototype field. But so far, it's been an intense race for a number of cars. This track, of course, Johnny, very difficult to navigate on your own into hot laps. So it's, of course, a big challenge really to finish. With one car on the track, completing this number of laps is really an achievement, even for the best drivers. And now doing it with in the region of 37 to 40 cars on the racetrack makes this a very tall order, especially as the track evolves and changes. Of course, you saw that Sim Racing car weaving as he came off pit road. He wasn't trying to find out what the car felt like. He was warming tyres, which is something that now is important to consider when you're coming out onto the track for a pit stop.
Yeah, and it was very interesting how 2 HPD cars, that lovely French team, Jean-Michel Le Garnier, and another HPD car was trying to lap him at the same time. So he was coming across, I think it was turn 6. 2 HPD cars turning in on you on one corner, a very tight corner, is not what you want. And as you mentioned, a racetrack where you're already finding it difficult just to lap around on your own and set a good lap time. So for Yuri, it was a very dramatic first few corners for him out on the racetrack this event. But he's surely lapping away now. If we follow him at the moment, so we're on the run now down through the straight, turn 9. We're going towards turn 10. The problem with turn 10, I like the corner. It's downhill. And the good thing about, braking zones now, see, you creep downhill and then you start braking. What you do is you build a little bit of extra speed, and the car suspension really needs to be set up well through those areas. It's just, a bit of a factor you don't get on those modern design circuits. Whereas Road Atlanta, plenty of undulation. The roads basically feels like you're oscillating over all the bumps and everything like that. And it's good to see iRacing constantly laser scanning, versions of the racetrack, even updating versions, such as, we saw Daytona in the past after that was resurfaced. New version out there for all iRacers to race on.
It is indeed, and as one of our viewers on YouTube just noticed, and a few people have been asking throughout the day, where are the marbles? Well, hopefully going to get some sight of them now. They are starting to form on the racetrack. Taking about 4 hours, but they are finally appearing. We're getting marbles. This is going to change everything, Johnny. Of course, the marbles will provide a real slippery surface, loss of traction for these cars, especially with the prototypes trying to pass GT cars. There's going to be a premium for that racing line now. So, are we going to see more GT cars moving out of the way onto the marbles, or prototypes getting on the marbles and getting loose? This is now going to change how the dynamic of this race. We've suddenly entered a whole different phase where there is a new threat on the racetrack.
Yeah, and marbles, I don't have good memories of it. As the number 49 car there pits, that's Dexter Castro, who enters the pit lane.
49 Motorsports A car.
Yep. So 49
Ahmed Yamin into that car for those guys.
Yeah, and Ahmed, this is his second stint. Started the race off, did right around 100 laps, and 92 to be exact. Back into that vehicle. Look at that lovely livery design as well. That's beautiful, you could say. Genuine right there. That is excellent.
Yeah, it's a really nice looking car. That's one of the great things we see in this series, the Road Warrior, is all the beautiful cars on the prototypes, on the GT cars we see from drivers and teams. They always put so much effort into their vehicles, and it really is enjoyable to see because we get to see real passion, the team identities forming. Of course, we're all very familiar with Mad Cow Bessie and her appearance, and other cars in this series that we get to see quite regularly, like the Radicals, like Coanda cars. They all jump out at us as those team identities, so really enjoyable to see those teams forming real personalities, not just on the racetrack but off as well, as Ahmed Yamin will rejoin the racetrack there in that 49 machine. But it's an evolving race, as we said, and not just marbles forming now being a change, but this track is changing. We're seeing cars handling different. We're seeing lap times dropping off, even on fresh tyres. This is something that's the drivers are going to have to be getting used to and anticipating. So it's a major evolution, and this is the first endurance race we've completed. We'll be undertaking, I should say, since the release of Dynamic Track Surface to the sim.
Yep.
And in a way, it is a test. This is the first time anyone's gone 10 hours on service and within this environment, in a racing competitive environment. So it's a really exciting journey we're going on, not just as teams, not just as commentators and viewers, but as sim racers in general. This is a major milestone that we're having a 10-hour endurance race with a track that lives and breathes. It changes throughout the run, and we see that evolve. So it's an exciting difference as the two-machine Red Devolution Racing, second in GT class, McLaren heads onto pit road. Will we see Daniel Wensing getting out of that car? He's so far done a very long stint. Matthew Daniels and Evan Merrill in that car also with Sven Demi. Will we see Daniel Wensing out? He will not. It's looking like he will double stint. The car gets its tyres changed and fueled. They will be heading back out onto the racetrack any second now. I've seen those flames flying out the back of the McLaren as he revs that engine. But that car will now head back onto the track. But unfortunately they are 2 laps back from your class leader, Racer Coanda Simsport, and just incredible performance from those guys. Laps ahead of their competition. They don't put a foot wrong. They have an easy victory. So if you were Renz Broekman, Johnny, would you be taking your foot off somewhat? Would you be relaxing a bit? Or does taking it easy also invite you to make mistakes you might not make if you were in that fast rhythm? We talk about it every endurance race, but we often say, well, why are drivers with such a big advantage pushing so hard? Because if they change their style, they make mistakes. It's not familiar.
Yeah, broken
In fact,
pits,
there he is.
as
He's
you say
actually
that.
in his.
So there we go. But I mean, you were reading my mind before you went to that, because I was about to say, from experience, when you're leading races and you're in that zone, it's not the same for every driver. I mean, that's understandable. But when you're in a zone where you're lapping around the racetrack and you're pushing the throttle pedal, the brake pedal, and then 10 laps later you realize that, wait a sec, I'm racing in an endurance race. And then you look at your last 10 lap times like, wow, those were pretty good. You're not really thinking. You're just going out there, your brain's doing the work, muscle memory, you're lapping away. It's your subconscious driving. I mean, that's the feeling I know from many races that I've been in, and I've led most of them as well, where I know that, hey, when you're in that rhythm, you're hard to beat. And the only person that can beat you is yourself. I remember there was a race where one day, I started, and as embarrassing as it is, I always say it, I did literally start to think about what I was going to eat that night for dinner. And I think maybe like a lap later, or like half a lap later or something, I made my first mistake in right around half an hour. So it goes to show that the only person who can beat you, especially for Rens Broekman, who continues for another stint, is himself at the moment. He's lapping away very, very quickly, very calm out of his pit box. I mean, what do you do in this situation? Are you playing music in the background just to keep yourself entertained or something like that? Maybe the traffic, which I surely enjoy in endurance racing, keeps yourself on the edge.
It differs for every driver. To give a personal anecdote, of course, primarily I'm an oval racer, so I mostly turn left. But I do turn right occasionally, and I often find that in oval racing, Rens is involved in something on the track, I believe, so I have to try and find out what's happened to Rens Broekman. Nothing. Oh, that pit stop may not have been his normal sequence. Oh no, Jon Jens has just told me he spilled his drink. I was going through the race footage to try and find out what happened to the dominant car in the PT class, and turns out it wasn't. It was his drink got spilled, so a culinary calamity for the Co-Anda SimSport driver on the racetrack. But go back to what I was talking about. Perhaps as an oval driver, I have a different mentality to Johnny, in that I'd rather, obviously with the competition much closer together because there's less track, and track changes so much faster with tyre wear going off in a much more dramatic fashion. My mentality is not to push as hard as I can every lap because that's how I drive, but I drive from the front bumper of the car behind me. I will only push as hard as I need to maintain a certain gap. A second, 2 seconds, that's all I will try and keep. I won't push further because I want to keep tyres and I want to keep fuel in the tank. I want to keep myself fresh enough to be able to push if I have to. And perhaps that's an ideology difference in different types of endurance racing, and I do consider oval racing an endurance form. Obviously, you are a rhythm driver, you get into this fast zone, you push the car. It's not what a lot of the top teams here do. Vortex, Radicals, Wanda, Phoenix. These guys drive on the limit so often that that's normal to them. And obviously, expert at saving tyres, saving fuel, not really a concern for them. Of course, you think that since the new updates we've had to the track surface have changed those tyre windows? Are you short pitting now 4 tyres rather than double stinting a set of tyres and staying out?
Well, that's something you have to test for, something you have to think about for the races. That constantly evolves, iRacing itself. What if wet weather comes in? How are drivers going to manage that? How long are you going to stay out on dry tyres compared to switching to wet? I mean, that's probably definitely, hopefully, in implementation by iRacing. But I mean, so many factors. It all comes to planning in the end. If you don't plan, it's the same. We know it from commentary as well. If you don't plan, you're going to be left out to dry, and the best way to do it is you're going to hang yourself out to dry. It's not going to be anybody else. Your opponents are going to do their work. You have to do yours. So the dynamic track came in right around about a month ago, 5 weeks ago to be exact, and it's made a huge difference to the way iRacing works. And especially, we look at the WCS, for example, the qualifying there has changed quite a lot. In fact, that drivers are no longer leaving sessions with 6 minutes to go saying, I'm happy with that time, I'm going to go rest now and eat my raisins or whatever gives me, energy for the next 2 hours. But there are others saying, you know what, this is like the real session, tracks rubbering in. We've watched those videos behind the scenes on the iRacing channel, which you can view now if you look to the behind the scenes section, and talk about the dynamic track and how it works and how the heat changes in time, and a lot of effort's been put in, and it's incredible to see. And that goes on to the next thing you can really think about is, what's next for simulation, and what's next for iRacing. I mean, this time, maybe they can implement sometime soon that every time you crash, you actually get hurt or electrocuted from your wheel, so that people will stop crashing in sim racing. That'd be something I'd be looking forward to, considering we can always push to the limits, but in the end, we make one mistake, and all we have to do is press escape mode back out there as well. And I'm sure that many people would unfortunately die from all those electrocutions.
Yeah, that's probably likely. Well, we brought in Jon Jens from the Racer Commanders in Sport. Jon, your guys have been doing incredibly well so far in the race today. 2 laps ahead of your competition. We've just been discussing the different mentalities of endurance drivers. You push 100% of the time. Do you take it easy when you've got this big lead? What is Coanda doing? Are you guys sitting back and thinking, we can maintain this gap, we've got this in the bag? Or are you still going for lapping the entire field again?
Due to the unfortunate schedule collision with the Blancpain race, not many of the frontrunner teams signed up for this race, so it might look a bit more dominating than we normally would have been, but currently we are driving not at 100%, but we are also not taking it too easy, I must say.
Of course, Coanda had its share of upset at Watkins Glen in one of the recent rounds. Your car is a lot more intact this time. Is that have you had any problems so far in the race today, or has it been pretty much plain sailing since the drop of the green flag?
I have not been there for the whole race, but as far as I know, there were no big issues for us. Everything went clean.
Well, excellent news so far. Have you got any plans for later in the race? Are you going to be hopping into the car yourself, or are you simply sitting here in a managerial role this time?
No, after this stint, I will take over for 2 more, and then after that, Martin Funke will join.
Well, great news from you guys, and hopefully a great performance continues here today, and obviously major implications for championship points in Road Warrior. You did mention the Blancpain Endurance Series. Coanda naturally are going to be running for Pro in that series. How do you see the evolution of that coming on, and its benefits to iRacing and the road racing community?
The impact of this series has been huge. I mean, with 400 teams signed up to go for the Pro, the series is really going to be big next year, and the competition is very close. Especially there will be at least 10 or 15 teams that can basically go for wins every round.
Well, the big question, of course, will be, will Coanda be driving any of the current cars, or perhaps an Audi or a Mercedes?
Depends on how we like the other cars. We don't know how they drive yet, of course, so we will just test them and see what fits best to our drivers.
Thank you for joining us, Jon. Thank you, and good luck for the rest of the race.
Thank you.
Guess who's pitting, Rachel?
Who's pitting, Johnny?
It's the How's She Going, eh? The racing car.
How's she going, eh, Carl?
Yeah,
We're turning this into an
Brandon,
Aussie team now? I mean, I thought they were Canadian, eh?
Oh, I don't know how to do
This is such a
Canadian
massacre of accents, I'm going to stop now, but how's she going, eh? Racing, or doing an awesome pit stop, eh? The Canadian racers, Brandon Goreska is in that car now, or he has been in that car for a while. This is his second stint. He'll be out and away after taking fuel and tyres. Out and away he goes. He'll be rejoining that racetrack. Those guys are running currently in P number 5 in the prototype class. They are second car 3 laps down, and the third car multiple laps down. But they're still in a good position, of course. They are up against very stiff competition, and this is not one of the bigger teams we think of. Autobahn, Vortex, 7-3 are up there. We've lost, of course, Radicals, and we've lost PRT, but as we said, finishing is the most important thing. We have a spin for the number 73 car. That is the car of 73 Motorsports. We were just talking about them, so unfortunate news there. And that's the second corner of the second sector double apex right-hander. Back at this track, they spin that car around, narrowly avoid collecting the Coanda BMW. Just as we were talking to them about not pushing too hard, very nearly just wiped out by a spun-out prototype. In fact, the P3 prototype currently. Thankfully, of course, with 2 laps to spare, they can afford to spin and carry on. Maybe expect those guys to come into the pit road to take new tyres now and recover from that. They're not. They're carrying on, so that's more than we expected, but I thought we'd just apply the commentator's curse there to Coanda as we have Vortex off the track. Oh my god, incident for the race leaders. Vortex Sim Racing destroyed. Contact there. Looking at this, going to get a replay up hopefully right away. Vortex coming up the hill in Sector 1 over the crest. First sector, they cook that exit, that apex, take the escape road, come back onto the track, and they just rejoin too fast, Johnny. That's amazing. They rejoin at full speed right into the back of the 49 Motorsports BMW. I can't quite believe what I'm seeing. The prototype field leader goes off track, runs at full speed into the back of a GT car.
It's a catastrophic mistake from Tim Petit. I mean, you said it right there. He rejoined the racetrack, and through no fault of their own, the HPD car has done nothing wrong. And and actually, looking at it, I thought that, sorry, not the HPD, I'm getting confused. The GT car, in the end, they did nothing wrong. They continued on, hardly unscathed by that incident. So I think they missed the corner a little bit, but for the Tim Petit and the Vortex Sim Racing HPD car, smoke straight away coming out, straight to the pit lane for some repairs. And I spoke about a race, turning upside down out of nowhere. Billy Smith slowly catching up to the leaders there, hardly had to do anything. Now they've grabbed the lead for Autobahn Motorsports. And
incredible change of events. Exactly, Johnny. Yeah. Autobahn Motorsports now with the driver of Billy Smith takes the lead in this race. They've had the lead gifted to them. They are now, will soon be the only car on the lead lap for the prototype field. A position that they can relax with, a similar way to Coanda. So a dominant position now for Autobahn. They really have to work to keep that car clean. What boggles my mind, Johnny, that Vortex, who was so comfortable in the lead, had 10 seconds clear of Autobahn with only 2 cars in the lead lap, chose to rejoin so fast in heavy traffic. A difficult, twisty section of the racetrack. Simply rejoin the track, but not to hit from the side, not to be hit by as they rejoin, but to run into the back of a GT car rejoining the track.
Yeah,
maybe he was too busy concentrating on keeping the car straight, or perhaps the car was a little loose, but run straight into the back of... I don't think I've ever seen anything like that happen in an endurance race, ever.
Have to think about it. In terms of the way he might be driving the HPD car, high speeds, you look at the way he rejoined as well, as the Hashigoen car is pitting again, maybe have an issue. We'll talk about that in a second. But the Tim Petit incident, after further
crash, sorry Johnny, you're going to have to break it off there. We have a crash for the Hashigoen iRacing. Hashigoen not very well. Through the first sector, loses the car, snaps, turns around and impales the guardrail backwards, having to get a tow truck back to pit road. That is another prototype victim in your field. Yes, they had to ring 911, their car number, because that was a major hit. The car in this replay just now stepping out, and app reaction, counter steer, car bites, and round they go. It looks like that car got onto the marbles, Johnny.
Yeah, exactly. Rear end lost, and they completely... It's like they got sucked into the wall or something. It's like Spider-Man just stuck the car there. But anyway, they're into the pits as well, right in front of that Vortex car. So 2 cars with vital mistakes, vital errors that have proved fatal for them in this stage of the race. 5 hours and 27 minutes left remaining. And to go back to that Vortex sim racing incident, I think with your field of view that you're using when you're racing, you can't always see drivers to the right. I'm not sure if spotters would call them when you're off the racetrack as well. So a bit of a bad time to make a mistake. An area
Realistically,
as well. Yeah,
Johnny,
they should.
you would, if you're running a single screen, surely you would look right and have a look at what's coming past you, or I suspect a lot of these top teams are running triple screens, so of course in terms of sim hardware running triple screens you could see that car coming, or even the teams would be having spotters, you know, safe to rejoin, not safe to rejoin. It seems like a very unforced error.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, looking from the GT car view, when they couldn't even see the car rejoining the racetrack. So, I mean, that goes to show that from both ends, I don't think the HPD car knew the GT car was there, and I don't think the GT car knew that the HPD car was going to rejoin like that. The good thing is, for one car, is that they were unharmed. The other, they've lost the race lead, and they're still in the pit lane right now, so still waiting to repair damage. So, currently at the moment, that Vortex racing car is listed in 5th, and they've gone
I think
from
it'll be a
first.
lot lower. That car's engine definitely blown from what we saw, so Vortex Sim Racing, heartbreak for the guys that really inherited that race lead from Radicals Online. They had been fighting with the Radicals for that lead, so Vortex really the only competition for the Radicals in the early part of this race, but 2 major teams now out. Vortex, who've had some good wins so far this season, will finish very poorly in this race. Autobahn Motorsports with a surprise inheriting the lead, 2 laps clear of 7-3 Motorsports, who are up from P3, P2, and FRT Hawker's endurance team, 55 car, sneaking into a podium position right now on the same lap as 7-3, so they have a chance for P2. That's Francisco Gonzalez driving right now for that team. That's also Antonio J. Pinto. They also have... No, it's just those 2 drivers, so small team with a chance for glory here at the Petit Le Mans, as the top teams make unforced errors, forced errors and mistakes involved in incidents. Casualty count continues to rise here at Road Atlanta. But we're just going to pop to commercial for a short while. Hopefully you'll be able to rejoin us after the break. We go RaceSpot TV side by side.
It's been a very long off-season. Teams have changed, sponsors have changed, colors and all, but one thing that hasn't, they like to mash the loud pedal. Green flag is out on the 2015 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series season.
iRacing is the ideal platform for these broadcasts because we have the best racers, the best online racers in the world, and we have such a variety of racing, from NASCAR to Grand Prix style racing, sports car endurance racing. We do it all.
Since 2010, the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series has been the absolute pinnacle. Coda from the front, they're packing up behind number 1. They're going to be 4 wide as they come down into turn number 1 for the first time. Will they make it through that first corner? You can see them funneling through the center S's. It looks as though everyone is just about made it through. We have got ourselves some contact though, Rachel.
Side by side going into turns 3 and 4. Humpy's got the advantage, but Ottinger's not going to...
Oh, he got into him!
Ottinger gets into the 58, turns right into him, and that ends Ottinger's run.
We do a lot of live broadcasts now. Every Tuesday is NASCAR night, so on alternating Tuesdays we do the Peak Antifreeze Series. And on the other Tuesdays, the B-Class Series, which is the Xfinity cars, and sometimes we'll even do some short track racing depending on the schedule. Every other Saturday, we do the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, so the best road racers we have. And we also broadcast some special events, including the Endurance Championship, which is part of the Road Warrior Series. So we broadcast the Daytona 24, the Sebring 12-hour, we'll do the Watkins Glen 6-hour, several other races along there. And then, of course, the iRacing Pro Racing Champions, which is usually our biggest.
That is short track racing, and that's how awesome this sim is, Joe. That's something you see on TV on
Watched event of the year.
That is short track racing, and that's how awesome this sim is, Joe. That's something you see on TV on highlight reels, and we just saw it here, live.
We invite iRacers who are real world racers. They compete every December. Guys like Alex Gurney, Justin Wilson, Scott Speed, Ron Capps, the list goes on. Really some big name drivers from all major forms of motorsport. It's really neat to see them get together and race together.
See Laughlin up top, down to the ball, gets turned! Laughlin gets turned! Caution is out foul at the front of the field!
The easiest place to find the broadcast is on our website, iRacing.com/live. So you can find some of our races on fanschoice.tv as well. A nice place to find iRacing broadcasts. You can also find it at mrn.com and peakauto.com.
Welcome back to the 2015 Petit Le Mans here on iRacing Live, brought to you by RaceSpot TV. Rachel Whiteford with Johnny Simone in the booth, with Hugo Luis on the cameras. We'll be joining now for continued coverage of this amazing race so far. Johnny, it's been highly exciting so far. We've had upsets, we've had drama. We've just lost, of course, Vortex Sim Racing, for anybody who's just joined us. Vortex, big incident there, rejoining the track and clipping the back of the 49 Motorsports BMW GT car, with a major incident taking them out of the race for at least 30 minutes with a destroyed car. As we see there, the 7 and the 49 having a good battle now for the final podium spot in the GT field. That is one row SimSport GT. Now 2 wide there with 49 Motorsports A coming through the second part of that second sector. Onto the back straight now, the drag race down to the hairpin. We're going to see some exciting racing here. Will we see a late move from 49 Motorsports as we head into the final sector here of the racetrack at Road Atlanta? Looking like they've fallen back a little bit. They're going to be patient now, which is a good strategy to be on. And, well, with 3 cars 1 lap down, or 2 laps down from your race leader, that is 3 cars battling for P2 and P3 in the results right now for your GT field. Red Devolution Racing currently second, 1 row SimSport is second, third, and 49 Motorsports looking for that final spot in 4th. Just exciting racing so far now, as we're seeing so much change, Johnny. Drama throughout the field, excitement and upset, with an underdog team, Autobahn Motorsports, leading the way now, with 7-3 Motorsports up into second, Online Sim Racing D, LMP2 in second place. So we have a prototype car there. I believe that is the Manor MP prototype number 17 car, passing GT cars and the S's, which, well, if we've seen anything so far, hopefully their crew chief will be telling them to behave themselves and not push things too far. Quite a contentious potential move there from them. Not perhaps the most sensible considering what we've seen so far. But continuing this battle now between the 49 and the 7. They are all over each other once again as they get passed by another prototype car. That is, I believe, the multiple laps down car from, I believe, Abandonati. They're coming through as more prototypes come streaming past. That is Radicals. They're back on track, of course. Down in P number 9 for them. Number 8 soon, in fact, as they'll pass Vortex finally. But they thought that would never happen again.
Well, this is number 7 and number 49 car here in the GT class, fighting for that final podium. And here's Amir Diamin who should get a great run. He's been quite audacious trying to pass this number 7 car, almost wheel to wheel there, and they almost touch, so very, very close. But at the moment, Ahmed Yaman takes that 3rd position in the GT class, so he drops Justin Hopp down the order, and it was good to see, as I mentioned, quite audacious from him. I mean, Justin was trying to defend that position just as you would see in a normal sprint race, and he hits the curb there. Justin keeps it together, and he's butchered that. I think the first time in quite a while he's been in maybe a little bit of dirty air. He's been unsettled. So for Justin now, 5 hours and 17 minutes remaining, is in 4th place, head up. Still plenty of time to go. You never know, you might catch the driver in front of Ahmed in a few laps time if things go your way.
Absolutely. Well, the race evolving beautifully here as we're approaching now the halfway point in this race. We're 4 hours and 47 minutes into this race, coming up on 5 hours and what will be half time. So much has changed right now, and the race is evolving dramatically. We were talking, Johnny, whilst we were at break, about the evolving track. Of course, for the viewers at home, this is the first big race, the first long endurance race we've had since the release of the dynamic track surface model to iRacing. This fully dynamic track surface, which does rubber up and heats up depending on where the cars are running. It's not a scripted line, it's not a scripted rate of change. It's entirely dependent on where cars are running and how they're running. So I think perhaps we'll discuss this, of course, but we think that is catching out some teams and drivers. It's perhaps not quite what they expected. I don't really assume many of these teams will have done 4, 5, 6 hours of practice in a row to see how it affects the car, but do you think this is catching them out? Do you think this is something they've not prepared for? This will be the first time and we're really going to see teams learn from this?
For some, yes. And you always learn, you want to cover, though, when you're testing for a race, you want to cover as much as you can in practice and leave anything unexpected, for something you have out of, or no control out of. And here I am talking about Justin Hopp trying to fight his way back into that 3rd position in the GT class. Had an extremely good run into corner 10A, 10.1, whatever that corner's called. So 10A there onto 10B, and then now the final corner at turn 12. So you can see that Justin Hopp, I told you that he wasn't going to drop back too much. But talking about that track and talking about how you prepare your car each event, and it goes the same. You prepare your setup, drivers, mentality, etc. You learn from each event. You say, hey, this didn't go so well, let's not do that next time. Hey, this worked well in the setup, let's keep that going on for the rest of the season. And this is stuff you'll carry on towards future races. And some of these guys out here are definitely going to be doing that Blancpain series. So I mean, in next year as well, there's going to be a lot of stuff to learn and a lot of factors to consider. So these are basically what you need to be practicing for. The Road Warrior series, one of the most popular in iRacing, or the most, you could say. And in terms of endurance racing, hosting the 24-hour race events such as the Spa 24-hour. So incredible amount of knowledge you can gain just by presenting a vehicle in any split. We know there's many splits of drivers here today. This is only the top one. And it can catch a lot of people out, not preparing and not learning. But the guys in the top split are more experienced and know better not to prepare for events than to put in the hard work earlier.
Oh, absolutely. We can definitely see that's something that's been a major factor here today, and just incredible excitement of seeing this happen and in a way that we really never expected to see. I think that when you first started sim racing, that you would see a day where we were in a 10-hour race with the track that's evolving like this, that's changing so much that drivers are having to react to real world issues beyond that of controlling the car.
Yeah, and it actually makes a huge difference, I mean, from experience, especially racing on dynamic tracks, is sometimes you'll spend 2 weeks practicing on a really grip track, end of qualifying type track, just because you can in a simulator. Set it to the conditions that you want, and in iRacing you can do the same. You come to a race where the car is as one of the leaders pits here. That's Billy Smith. The second is Billy Smith entering the pit lane. The thing about that is dynamic tracks. You set your car up for a grippy track. When you go to a green track and you're starting off your
Sorry,
session,
Johnny.
starting off
That's
this
the
race,
Autobahn Motorsports team who are just pitting in now. That is Billy Smith onto pit road. He'll be taking tyres and fuel. We'll see if he hops out of that car. If not, he will be. That's Robert Jackman heading into the Autobahn machine now as they head into a conservation mode to protect this unexpected free lead they have. 3 laps clear of any other competition. Incredible position for them to be in. We're going to hopefully get a chat with somebody from Autobahn Racing, or Autobahn Motorsports, I apologise, in the next couple of minutes. And we'll get to talk to them about this and what their expectations were for the race. Funny, you continue what you were saying, sorry?
What was I saying? No, I'm kidding. I know what I was saying.
Completely lost what you were saying.
Yeah. No, I was joking. I know what I'm saying. Yeah, that's it. When you set your car up, I'm going to speak faster. Sorry, I'm falling asleep. It's 5 a.m. I'm basically on an all-nighter. What was I saying? Oh, okay, I remember now. The green track. I've noticed when I set my car up for a rubber track and I set it up for a green track, I'm basically sometimes a second off the pace from the guys who have set their car up for a green track. So you essentially want to set your car up for the conditions where you're going to maximize the potential of your event. So if the track in qualifying is going to be grippy, but then it's green for the race, you're going to set the car up to be green because you know you're going to be faster in the event that matters. Whereas if it's the opposite, it's green for qualifying, rubbered in for the race, you're going to be practicing in the past 2 weeks on the most rubbered in track you can possibly race on. Just simply because your car is going to be optimized for those conditions, and you don't believe the amount of understeer you get on a green track and the amount of rear end grip you get on a really grippy track. And if you set your car up for a green track where you want optimal rear traction and it's a green track, what happens is when you go to a grippy track, you're going to have so much rear traction, the rear end is just not going to turn in fast corners simply because there's, the car's just not optimized well, and ride heights have a play or a say in that as well, and there's so many factors. I could be talking for the next 11 minutes, but thankfully we have a few drivers who have finished their stints ready to talk to you, Rachel Whitefield.
We do indeed. We've got Dino and we've also got Billy Smith from Autobahn Motorsports, the team currently leading the entire race and the prototype class. Guys, do you expect to ever be in this position?
I'll let Billy talk first. He was driving first, so I guess he can.
Well, I mean, it started out pretty well with John running. We got a little bit behind, I think, to 4th or 5th or something, so we were just kind of biding our time for a while, and I got in. I had a little problem with my headset, but then we, all of a sudden the attrition started taking over.
We heard that you ran the first stint or so with no sound whatsoever. An incredible feat, really, to add to that performance. But of course, you guys have now taken this lead with the Radicals and Vortex leaving the race due to mistakes. You're 3 laps clear of your nearest competition. We asked the same question of Coanda in the GT field. Are you taking this easy, or are you pushing still?
Well, I was pushing pretty hard to try to catch when I was in second there during my second stint and the first half of the third stint. After that little incident, I kind of backed it up a little bit. If I was starting to get in a situation with a lot of traffic, I was definitely backing it up a notch just to take it easy.
Well, incredible performance so far from you guys, of course, and this could be quite a late race for you guys. Running a lot earlier, I should say, than the European drivers. Of course, giving you an advantage later on. It's an early start, but you guys will finish a lot fresher than drivers running into 11, 12 at night. Midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning even for the Europeans. Obviously, being from Canada, Texas, and Canada as well, for you, Dino, this is about 7 o'clock in the evening, or 8 o'clock in the evening it will finish for you, so is that going to be something that will keep you guys fresher, maybe make less mistakes?
Yeah, definitely it's an advantage. It was a little bit of an early start. I myself was awake about 2 hours prior to the race, so 7 o'clock, trying to get my eyes open, but it's
Oh, sorry guys, I have to stop you for a moment because we've had a crash on the racetrack. That is the number 7373 Motorsports have had a problem. Yep, I'm going to pull a Rick Allen. Problems on a racetrack. Heading into the hairpin, I'm going to get a replay up for you now. Into the chicane, and 7-3 lock it up under braking for the second part, and spin off the track. A light graze of the wall, but they managed to get it going again, and hopefully they can get that into the pits, repair any damage, or just at least take fresh tyres, and hopefully maintain their position on the track. They're one lap ahead of the FRT Hawkers endurance team, so pretty defensible position for them. And we'll head back now to the guys of Autobahn Motorsports. Sorry, carry on.
Oh, no, nothing. Just gonna say, I mean, both John and Billy set up a really good car, a really good advantage. They recovered pretty well from first couple stints, and I think both Robert and I, and later on Danny Kane, we're gonna have work cut out for us. But after unfortunate incidents with, I guess, Vortex and Radicals, it's going to be a little more relaxed drive than anything.
Oh, it's certainly a good position you guys have found yourselves in, so best of luck with the rest of the race. You've still got 5 hours to go. Managed to keep that 2-lap lead. Are you guys finding this track is changing the way you expected, or is this perhaps something that's caught out the top team, that it's changed in ways no one really expected?
Well, I didn't really notice the track grip up a whole lot, but what was definitely noticeable is there was no grip offline. Coming out of, I forget the turn number, before the S's, the left-hander, it's usually pretty easy to pass a GT car before you swing back right. And in my second stint, it noticeably got very, very slick if you got out too far.
Are you guys seeing the marbles come into effect on the track? Is that something that's causing that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't see the marbles in the car. I can definitely see the racing line, obviously. But it's just when you get off the racing line, it's just, there's noticeably less grip.
That's an exciting and interesting development, of course, for this race with 5 hours to go. There's still a lot of change to happen. We obviously just saw your car getting passed by the Manor MP Motorsport car in a rather wiggly, wavy, sashaying fashion through the S's. Guys, perhaps considering letting that back marker go and not into you, as it seemed he nearly did.
I'm sorry, what was that? You cut out some. I couldn't. I didn't.
Sorry, I was saying that obviously you just got passed and then passed back the Manor MP car in your class. Letting them go, or do you think that perhaps you actually want to keep them behind you?
Probably best to keep them behind. I mean, it's with back markers at this point. It's, you're never sure how consistent they are, and being so many laps down, you just want to keep them back, and you want to stay out of the aero wash just to have the full control of the car, considering the lower grip levels. And right.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us, guys. It's been great to talk to you. Hopefully you'll pop back at some point later, and hopefully we'll be talking to you later on tonight in Victory Lane here at Road Atlanta. So best luck with the rest of the race, and hopefully see you at the end.
Thank you guys
very much.
Johnny, this has been an exciting change, and obviously that really echoed what we thought, that this is changing the way the track is behaving, and offline there is no grip, and with passing cars on the track having to go off the line. Major factor there, as we see, wow, the Autobahn Motorsports car getting very wide there in the S's and probably raising the entire team's blood pressure, filling more cones. This is actually quite a interesting development that with multi-class you have to go offline. There's no grip. These guys are finding this definite change from that rubbered in racing line to the areas of the track without that rubber build-up and the temperature build-up, so which is something only going to be amplified as this race goes on, do you think?
Well, it certainly will. It's going to have a big factor. I think for those who haven't experienced what it's like to drive off a rubbered line, basically go right now and test. take your steering wheel off the desk or whatever you need to do and drive with your pedals. That's what it basically feels like. It basically feels like there's no steering in the car. You try to turn right, let's say in a right-hand corner, and you just can't do it. As the number 3 car as well, we're having word, has been off the racetrack, and it looks
off again,
fairly
gathering the
damaged
tweakers.
as well.
That was a replay. They went wide in turn 5, and they seem to be functioning now. So it's a minor burp there for gathering of tweakers with Bob Van Katwick having that car. So hopefully he will be okay. But obviously Will's going to be back soon, Johnny. We're going to take a quick opportunity to talk V8 Supercars with an Aussie, of course. Very special weekend for your nation in motorsports.
Yeah, it is indeed. It's always a good race. It's always good fun. You know, a lot of Aussies like to have the shrimp on the barbie or whatever they have, and drink the beers and all that, and just enjoy Bathurst. But hey, it's talking about the racetrack in a racer's sense. It's incredible, and I always speak about a race I had with a guy who, I don't know where he is. He's just vanished from the face of the earth. His name's Yunus Nakala. Raced in the DW12. I did that series just to gain a bit of iRating, and yeah, me and him going wheel to wheel at Mount Panorama. There's even an article about it, and I didn't even know somebody was watching that race, to be honest. I didn't know anybody cared about that series. But anyway, through that racetrack, it is thrilling, and with those DW12 cars, let alone V8 Supercars and any other form of vehicles, it's thrilling. You know, there's different elements of the racetrack. It's like a street circuit mixed with Spa, mixed with this and that. It's everything you could think of. And I mean, there's lots of I could talk about. Yeah, can I? Considering I talk a lot, can I plug in my podcast here, or am I not allowed to do that?
Yeah, go for it.
Am I allowed to do that? Okay.
It's Racebot Associated, so go for it.
Oh yeah, well I sort of forced it to be Racebot Associated, but that's fine. Yeah, check out my podcast. It's new, the Simon Racing Report. First episode hopefully sometime next week, as a bit of contact just watching there, which makes it much more exhilarating for me to tell about this podcast here. But Bod Van Katwick, and I think that's Liam Quinn in one of the cars. No, actually it's Robert Jackman in the Autobahn car, so very close there on in the S's section. But nevertheless, check out my podcast on YouTube. Search the Simon Racing Report, also on SoundCloud. Give a like and subscribe to the first episode, the prelude episode. The first real episode will be released sometime next week. Stay tuned, it's going to be good fun. And for now, with approaching that 5-hour mark, Rachel is very, very close. Some crashes going on in the area. The number 7 car.
And that is the One Row Sim Sport. They are off the racetrack now. We're going to get a replay for you. This is at the final corner. And we have the One Row Motorsport car being passed by one of the prototypes. That was car there of 73 Motorsports going up the inside. They get their wheels on the grass and round they go. Backwards, sideways across the track, back into the outside wall, and well, the roof tips over onto its roof. That's not the sight we like to see, a race car turn turtle, but that car has been whirled away. That was bizarre. Racing simulator physics, sometimes they can be quite entertaining.
Do you remember that DW12 dancing bug or whatever? That,
yes, I do. Breakdancing IndyCar was always one of my favourite things in iRacing, but thankfully that's been changed now. A lot better behaved, but as hopefully people on the broadcast are watching that roof do its little reverse ballet dance across the racetrack. That's I'm still enjoying watching that. First time I've seen that one, but yeah, of course you mentioned Bathurst before to cover that incident. That's always what I've thought of it as. I've always thought of it as Monaco with green Monaco. It's always been tight, no runoff, just craziness, and it's so enjoyable to race anything there. And one of my guilty pleasures, of course, is to race the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series trucks around Bathurst, because it's fun. It's horrible, but entertaining. Yeah, it's great car. Banner MP racing Radicals online right now for P7, P8 in the prototype class. Passing there one of the 4 GTs from the GT field. As Manor get hung up behind them and Radicals escape. Those 2 cars both 8 laps down now, and Radicals up to P7, so big progress for them. They've passed Banner for that position. They are now trying to find as many laps back as they can to try and work their way back to a potential top 5 if something goes wrong. It's going to be very interesting to see if they can make a recovery here. Of course, it's not going to be the points they wanted, but anything they can get, as we heard Coanda saying, with the Blancpain Endurance Series happening, it means a lot of the top teams aren't running this race, so there's a potential for big points for showing up and finishing. So if they can get that car to the end, it's a major opportunity. We did find out, of course, that Vortex, they are back out on track. Finiscarisi is running in that car. They're 18 laps down, well and truly out of this fight in 9th, but it's still a top 10. A big advantage for them. How's she going, Racing, the Canadian team? They have parked that car. They've retired from the event, so a fortunate end to the funniest name in the race. A quick look back at your race leader, Autobahn Motorsports, and they are in heavy traffic right now. They've been struggling recently, Johnny, with traffic, causing them all sorts of issues, making passes where perhaps they shouldn't. I can imagine communication of screaming and naughty words as people are panicking as they see such crazy moves and strange moments. But obviously, big blocks of traffic will often form during these races every couple of hours. It's just a nature of the beast, and these cars, he's got to get through it. He has a 2-lap lead, but I could be completely lost if he's timid around traffic all the time.
Well, at the same time, you have to look at the characteristics of this racetrack. Not the easiest to maneuver traffic. I mean, it's very tight as well, and grass, not many runoff areas around you, high curbs, cones everywhere as well. There's always flying cones in iRacing, so it's a challenge for the drivers. I think that's best put right there, is the fact that this is going to test who can drive endurance racing, at the best you can possibly, drive, if you can say. That's poor English. But anyway, they, coming through the S's, I'm watching HPD cars that are, I can just understand now why I'm always watching endurance racing and seeing HPD cars in iRacing crash into slower GT cars. A lot of drivers are going into corners thinking that they're much faster than the car in front when they underestimate the GT car's pace. And I'm concerned with whether some of these teams and drivers have practiced on a racetrack with GT cars around them. Now, obviously you can't implement an AI modeled GT car to 60 car fields and you're the only HPD, you have to maneuver around traffic. You can't do that in iRacing. It's a multiplayer service, but I'm just concerned with the fact that a lot of these guys aren't used to seeing the GT cars, and they don't think that they're going to be so fast. It's just something that a lot of them aren't considering, and we're seeing so many accidents, way too much. We're having, it's 1,000% more than we should have. As another car off the racetrack, sorry to cut you off, another car off the racetrack, that is the, what car is that? That is one of the, is that the leaders there, the Autobahn, is that Billy Smith the second? It was. So you're making a bit of a mistake. Sorry, that's Robert Jackman instead. He's in that car now.
He went off exactly where Vortex went off the track, but not rejoining to the side of a GT car. He balls across the grass. We've seen quite a few mistakes from Jackman so far in his stint. The pressure of being the race leaders is getting to that team.
Yeah, that's, wow. Alright.
Well, folks, 5 minutes and we will have Bill Vincent back. We'll be stuffed with pizza, prepared to shout at you all a lot more. But don't forget, of course, you can talk to us on YouTube, and you can also tweet #iRacingLeMans. So get involved, communicate, tell us how your race is going. We don't care what split you're in. Tell us how it's going. Of course, you can always hop onto the RaceSpot TV TeamSpeak. However, if you want to get interviewed, don't forget to put your split, car number, and your team name in your username. And we'll try and get to you if we get a chance. Of course, Johnny, this is now past the 5-hour mark. We're halfway, which is incredible considering a year ago, or even 6 months ago, this wasn't even, a year ago now, of course. First 24-hour race in iRacing was the Race Spot TV 24 Hours of Spa. This is an incredible development we've had. We can now be halfway through a 10-hour race. We have this coupled now with dynamic tracks. It's an incredible world we've entered, and with the news that we will have, of course, the X11 and day-night transitions coming. The potential for a 24-hour race change with darkness falling, the track cooling down and changing is going to be incredible. Teams will have to be really on top of their cars.
Yeah, this is nothing compared to what is coming up in the future and what was in the past. You know, considering now that there's been 24-hour races, a 10-hour race is nothing. Considering dynamic tracks, it's a new feature. People are like, hey, you know, imagine all this other new stuff that's coming. Day-night transitions, wet weather soon and stuff. There's another crash. Every time I talk, there's a crash. Can these guys stop crashing? It's the number 17 Manor MP Motorsport car, and they've made a little bit of a mistake through that S section again. And it's once again, we've seen so many drivers here, Rachel. This time around, Thomas Bjarke, you know, catching that curb, losing the rear end, but a lot of time with the HPD, you know, the rear end's really loose on a lot of cars here this afternoon. So this time out, catching another driver out.
It is indeed. That's Manor MP there, getting sideways, drifting turn 1, and managing to keep that car out of the wall, so undamaged for now, although I would really expect they will want to come in for fresh tyres. They probably have no grip left. If I found anything myself as a driver, is if you have a slide like that, your car, there's no grip left. The tyres have overheated, and the car doesn't handle properly at all, so we'll see if they make a run to pit road. Now down, will he come in? He will not, so driver staying out even after big slides, which is quite surprising. From my own experience, that of course leads to a car that handles badly and probably leads to a crash, so it's quite a different choice from them. They are 9 laps down, the only car on the lap they could afford to pit off sequence and take tyres, so interesting decision by that team.
Yeah.
Looking up front, of course, Autobahn still leading very well. And in fact, just getting past the CTC Racing BMW again. The close call for Autobahn, leading your GT field. For Racer kind of Simsport just gone 3 wide there with a GT car, a prototype. They are 2 laps clear as well of their competition. Red Devolution Racing in second. That car, beautiful paint scheme we're told, but for some reason we're not seeing it. It's really unfortunate. I've liked all of the Red Devolution Racing cars I've seen so far in other series. Don't forget they do run in the UK I Skip Barber series, also on Race Spot TV, that on Monday nights at 9 PM UK time. And also you'll find that they also have that on iRacing Live now. So check it out for some of the best Barber racing action in the sim racing world. Of course, you can also check out 2K Cup on Sunday evenings. Some longer racing in those cars. 49 Motorsports back in 3rd in the GT field. Phoenix Moonshine in 4th. LCF 5th, Core in 6th, Grip TV 7th, I think Tweakers 8th, 49 Motorsports B in 9th, and CTC Black rounding out your GT top 10. Up in the prototype field, that is Autobahn Motorsports inheriting that lead about 20-30 laps ago after the incident with Vortex. 73 Motorsports in 2nd, FRT Hawkers up to P3, Online Simracing.de, LMP2 up to P4, Speed Asylum Red, Pro Racing France, Radicals Online, Anna MP, Vortex, Sim Racing, and the Bloody Dutch rounding out your top 10. Bloody Dutch, of course, coming back from the first wreck of the race. Johnny, you weren't here for that, but their car was out early on. They were 20 laps down. They've come back, and now they're back in the top 10, which is great recovery.
Yeah, good job. Liam Quinn currently racing around in that HPD car, lapping a lot of traffic at the moment. It's well, this is getting me on the edge of my seat. I thought something was just about to blow up right in front of him, but nothing happened. Anyway, 4 hours and 48 minutes remaining the good thing is that for a lot of these drivers with damage, that's not good. But the good thing is, I'm getting to my point now, is the fact that when you step out of a damaged car and you go and drive a car that's basically unscathed, you don't understand how good the feeling is. And sometimes some drivers I know who after 2 weeks of practicing will drive a full race with a damaged car, and will sometimes spend after the race maybe doing 20 laps of just fun hot lapping around just to have some fun after the event. And they set their personal best for the whole 2 weeks. And I think for some of these drivers driving damaged cars, it's much more of a challenge. You're not going to be going as fast, obviously, but it's much more harder to control. And so that's the key, is to avoid damage. Yes, you have to be fast in endurance racing. Yes, you have to avoid contact. But if you can avoid those little, moments of damage, whether you clip an anti-cut curb, whether you scrape door to door, wheel to wheel with another car, it can save you a lot of lap time. And over a 10-hour distance, we're talking a lot of time, you could say. No specific figures, but a lot of time.
That is the nature of endurance racing, and something that we're seeing a lot of today. Of course, high attrition rate here at the Petit Le Mans Road Atlanta, in the heart of Georgia, as we go 10 hours of endurance racing here with split prototype and GT racing field. Of course, the 4 GT cars we have here, Ford GT, the Roof, the McLaren, the BMW, all running between HPD prototypes. An incredibly exciting mix of cars as we cross that halfway mark now. All downhill from here, for less than 5 hours remaining in this race. It doesn't feel like we've done over 5 hours, Johnny, so far.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like I haven't done anything, so that's for you though. You've done all of it, and good job to you, so keep that up. And thanks to all the viewers out there as well. It's good to see so many fans interested in all these events, and that's why we broadcast it all for them at RaceBot, because we get an audience, and we get a passionate audience of iRacers that want to race and want to view some of the world's best going at it. And we have a bit of a train here with some HPD cars around turn 7.
We do, and we'll try and get the camera on that if we can see. What car
Bloody
is it,
Dutch
Johnny?
car.
Bloody Dutch
Yeah,
car. That's
the number
the 44 machine.
car is at the back of the train.
Yes. Bloody Dutch, and that's the signals the return of the Vincent. Well, he's shown his face, so we're going to go to a quick commercial. We will join you guys after the break.
It's been a very long offseason. Teams have changed, sponsors have changed, colors and all, but one thing that hasn't, they like to mash the loud pedal. Green flag is out on the 2015 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series season.
iRacing is the ideal platform for these broadcasts because we have the best racers, the best online racers in the world, and we have such a variety of racing, from NASCAR to Grand Prix style racing, sports car, endurance racing. We do it all.
Since 2010, the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series has been the absolute pinnacle of road racing in a simulated form. Great start then by Yakoda from the front. They're packing up behind number 1. They're going to be 4 wide as they come down into turn number 1 for the first time. Will they make it through that first corner? You can see them funneling through the center S's. It looks as though everyone is just about made it through. We have got ourselves some contact though, Rachel.
Side by side going into turns 3 and 4. Humpy's got the advantage, but Ottinger's not going to...
Oh, he got into him!
Ottinger gets into the 58, turns right into him, and that ends Ottinger's run.
We do a lot of live broadcasts now. Every Tuesday is NASCAR night, so on alternating Tuesdays we do the Peak Antifreeze Series, and on the other Tuesdays the B-Class Series, which is the Xfinity cars, and sometimes we'll even do some short track racing depending on the schedule. Every other Saturday we do the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, so the best road racers we have. And we also broadcast some special events, including the Endurance Championship, which is part of the Road Warrior Series. So we broadcast the Daytona 24, the Sebring 12 Hour, We'll do the Watkins Glen 6-hour, several other races along there, and then of course the iRacing Pro Racing Champions, which is usually our biggest and most watched event of the year.
That is short track racing, and that's how awesome this sim is, Joe. That's something you see on TV on highlight reels, and we just saw it here, live.
We invite iRacers who are real-world racers. They compete every December. Guys like Alex Gurney, Justin Wilson, Scott Speed, Ron Capps, the list goes on. Really some big-name drivers from all major forms of motorsport. It's really neat to see them get together and race together.
See Laughlin up top, down to the ball, gets turned! Laughlin gets turned! Caution is out foul at the front of the field!
The easiest place to find the broadcast is on our website, iRacing.com/live. So you can find some of our races on fanschoice.tv as well. A nice place to find iRacing broadcast. You can also find it at mrn.com and peakauto.com.
You ready? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to RaceSpot TV, a special presentation of RaceSpot TV on iRacing Live. We are the world's best sim racing broadcaster, and we continue our coverage of this, the iRacing.com Petit Le Mans for 2015. Rachel Whitefoot's off to have a well-deserved comfort break. Robinson, along with the one man himself, the one and only Mr. Johnny Simone. Don't forget, you can catch his new podcast, Lemon Report, on our SoundCloud. That is through RaceSpot TV. Don't forget, also, starting Thursdays, the Will Vincent Show, coming online, and if you live in the UK and the West Midlands, on DAB Radio. Right then, let's get back to the action. The bloody Dutch are just about to be lashed by a Radicals car. Having a look out front though. We're talking about this off air. What about motorsports? They are not slowing down at all. They've got a 2-lap gap, Johnny. They're still being cray-cray out in front.
Yeah, incredible to see. You know, I mean, 4 hours and 41 minutes still left in this event, and when you got a 2-lap lead at the moment, we've seen so many teams. You can have a 10-lap lead and your race will be over. And for Vortex Sim Racing, who are now 24 laps behind. I mean, they had the lead not so long ago. Now they're 24 laps behind in this event. Autobahn just has to make sure they negotiate the traffic well, they're picking their lines right, and they're not, you know, making or taking silly risks. There's over 4 hours left, so you've got a lot of time to go in this event. Keep it up. Keep your head in the game, keep concentration, keep doing what you're doing, keep fighting for that win.
Driver swap, Grip TV Nation has got Mika Ursus behind the wheel of the car. Coming out from behind the wheel of the car. Adam Gosling getting behind the wheel of that one. You've also had the Elixir Racing Team car coming onto pit road just a moment ago. Ahmed Yamin in the number 49 Motorsports A car has also recently done himself a service. Best battle on track right now is P3 for P4 in your prototype division. That is the online Sim Racing DE LMP2 car of Juan Philip Vid, and then the FRT Hawkers Endurance team of Ruben Torres Gutierrez. Dumping it out right now, Johnny, for P number 3 and P4 in the Le Mans prototype division.
Yeah, it's good to see. Plenty of battles throughout the field as well. You know, this track is rubbering up as we go into the event. Oh, this is going to be hairy into turn 1. They just make it through. Where's P4 going to be side by side? So there we go. This next corner here, a lot of drivers take a very tight line, and you know, it's a much more difficult corner than it seems, because you're essentially, it's much similar to Sochi for those who are watching the Formula 1 this weekend. It's at the end of that second bend straight, you're sort of turning while braking, and in this HPD car, we know how easy it is to lose the rear end. so far, you know, these drivers are keeping it together for 5 hours. Surely they can do it for the next 5 hours with a few more driver swaps and then negotiate those corners. Lapping a car around that corner, though, is even more difficult, especially when you're side by side.
Martin is on pit road for the Radicals online team. We'll keep an eye out to see whether or not he is going to get out of that car. Don't forget, live timing and scoring is available. Head over to racebot.tv/timing. And I'll tell you how good this timing and scoring is, Johnny. I'm actually using it right now. I've clamped an iPad to my desk, and I'm using that right now to give me an update on who's in and who's out of pit road. So don't just think this is a little bell and whistle sort of thing. We as commentators, we use as much data as we can pour our hands over.
Yeah, we certainly do. I mean, I think for the WCS broadcast later, I had about, let me just look, I had like 9 pages, it says, of notes. That's 9 pages of notes. Now, obviously, you know, it's not all writing. There are probably some images I've stuck in there, like the track map and stuff. But, I mean, that's how much prep you have to put into it. And for these races as well, it goes the same way. Much prep, and I spoke about it a lot with Rachel. Wait, you're not supposed to prep for this broadcast? Oh, no, of course I'm meant to prep the spot. I'm talking about the races. Don't put me on the spot like that. No, but in seriousness now, what was I saying? About the
prep for races, about the preparation. That's the one. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, these guys and me and Rachel, I kept alluding to it constantly in the past hour, is that you know, we are preparing for an event. You want to know what you're doing at all times, you know, especially if it's a 2-hour sprint event. You want to know when your teammates are pitting, and that's where rivalry comes in. In sim racing, you're basically all friends in a team. It's not like someone's going to hide their strategy, whereas in the real world, you've got 500 workers and engineers working for you, and if one driver has a bit of conflict with you in the team, he has to swing 200 people into his favor to hide stuff from you.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing as well. As far as this type of racing goes in online racing, esports, I'm going to have a very interesting couple of weeks worth of discussion on this point. The first one is that as far as we go as Racebot TV to prep for these races, we've had so many questions. What do you do? How do you prep for them? And it's an interesting dynamic here, Johnny, because on one hand, you always have, as Jorn Jens, by the way, let's stop for a minute. Jorn Jens is on pit road for Commander Sim Sports. With, I don't know, only a 2-lap advantage over the field. So, you know, he's going to be okay, I think. Jorn Jens behind the wheel of that car right now. Rens Brokerman has got out of it. Of course, Rens, very accomplished Grand Prix driver. Jorn Jens doing double duty here today, Johnny. Of course, having previously run in the final round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series.
Yeah, certainly so. It's the battle for the number 55... number 45 cars in the HPD class for P3 and P4 also is taking place. Number 45 car going through our lovely man Hugo Luis being our spotter for us here today. And here we go up towards that very difficult corner. They approach a lap car as well. I mean, I talked about it. Smart there from Jan Philipp Weird. He kept his cool, and I'm wondering if Ruben behind is going to keep his cool as well. He does, and you see right there, they're not throwing the car up the inside, surprising the guy in the GT car. They're keeping their head cool and then maneuvering their way through the traffic.
Do you think any of these two thought that they were going to have a chance at getting a podium here today? When you consider the fact that you've got Autobahn, you've got Vortex, you've got Radicals, they came in as the favourites to be 1, 2, 3 in some variety on the podium. Yeah, Miguel Martin is currently 10 laps down almost in... Actually, I take that back. 8 laps down in the Radicals Online car. You've then got yourself Dennis Garis in the Vortex Sim Racing car. Many laps down, all the way down P19 overall. And I think this is showing in the racing here, Johnny. These guys don't expect to be getting a podium. And they're thinking big picture. They know that even if they come P4 here today, they're going to get some big points. And that, this late into a championship, with only one round-ish technically... Is the Bathurst 1000 technically classified as part of the Endurance Championship? I don't think it is.
Yeah.
It's not, is it? This is the last round of the Endurance Championship, and Bathurst is our kind of, yeah, okay, add another event on. So, you know, as far as championship goes, you know, points mean everything. So, P4 points are going to be worth a lot more than throwing your car down to the inside of someone, both crushing out the race, and then neither of you getting the points you deserve. So, actually... very good driving between these two drivers. They've not been separated by more than about 2 seconds over the last 10 laps. even though Weed has moved ahead, Gutierrez is still there in play. There's one car between the two of them right now. That is a lapped down car, which I do believe is a bloody Dutch car of Liam Quinn. But there's a lot of traffic, actually. A lot of traffic ahead of these two, Johnny.
Well, and they're both trying to fight their way through on towards turn 10A or whatever that corner is. And there we go, the bloody Dutch car through. And so, that was very, very close. The downhill drop into that braking zone, as it's actually, sorry, the bloody Dutch car is Liam Quinn behind that orange car. And it's difficult, you know. Downhill, you slowly drop, increasing your speed, then you have to nab onto the brakes. It's a very fun corner, and I like it. It presents a challenge to the drivers. It's not exactly downhill in the actual zone itself, but just the challenge of the fact that the car is unsettled by the time you start to hit the brakes.
Yeah. To give you an update, by the way, the Bathurst 1000 is a team event, but it's not part of the Endurance Championship. And we are waiting if there will be an event at the Nordschleife this year. So in theory, this could well be the final race of the championship. And, well, that means that drivers have two different things in mind. They want to get themselves into position. They've had a tough first couple of races, either at Daytona or at Sebring. Then they, of course, want the extra race to bounce back. However, if they're doing well, they've been consistent, they don't mind this is the last race of the championship. We may well go to the Nordschleife. We may not. We'll keep you up to date, of course, what happens on RaceSpot TV. Of course, RaceSpot TV is your official home for the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing, the iRacing.com Road Warrior Endurance Championship, the Indianapolis 500, and also 7, yes, it was 6, it's now 7 of the biggest sim racing leagues are on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. Pretty much the ink will dry, if it hasn't already, Johnny, on the biggest IndyCar league in all of sim racing. Partnership between IndyCar, iRacing, and Racer magazine. This is going to be incredible. 16th Street Racing League have taken league racing and open wheels to a whole new level.
It's good to see, you know, and I think what these leagues are doing for the community of sim racing is overlooked, and I think that needs to be recognized more. But talking about that, for the iRacing.com World Champion to win $10,000 and the Dota 2 Champion, or whatever that game is called, to earn $6.6 million, we need to fix that situation. I don't care, it's almost 6 a.m. here and I'm still ranting about stuff like this because it matters, okay? Because you know, I believe money corrupts people, personally. I believe that. Yeah. But at the same time, you deserve a bit of, you know, remuneration, or I'm too tired to even pronounce words, to get, you know, for all your hard work throughout the year. Now, this isn't a professional job for nobody, you know. No. Sim racing is not professional for anybody. It can be a hobby, it can be a professional hobby, if that's even, you know, a proper phrase you can use in the outside world. It is the fact that everybody enjoys doing what they're doing. It's very hard as well, and it's all about audience, you know. We're doing what we can from the broadcasting side, the leagues are doing what they can, and the fans and the audience and all the drivers are, you know, fulfilling their role as well. And that's what you need to do as a community, as a small population as well, the sim racing community, is to work together to succeed for the future.
I think it's interesting as well because I mean, if I was to be arrogant for just one moment's time, if I wanted to be, I could be the highest earning person in sim racing. If you think about it that way, because of the amount of commentary work that I do, the amount of rates that you know, but that's not the case. But at the same time, you look at, and I'll talk from a commentary point of view. You look at the commentators for things like League of Legends and Dota and all of these kind of these games, and one of my key things at the moment is looking at the untold rise of esports. But the issue is, esports and e-racing are two different concepts. E-racing hasn't had its breakthrough yet. It almost had it with GT Academy, but the issue is that the average fan looked at GT Academy, found it was a racing game, and just thought, yeah, this means nothing to me. And they see it as a game, they don't, but it commands more than what most esports does. So I think we've always talked about esports and we've clumped things like iRacing and its competitors into that. Realistically, we need to be talking about a different category altogether. E-racing, I think, is, I'd say 3 years away from hitting the big time. But then it's going to be the case of, are we ever going to see the likes of ESPN or Fox Sports or CBS or anyone ever picking up any right to e-racing in the same way that they're starting to pick up the rights to esports? Because TBS, for example, have just signed an esports contract. ESPN, through X Games, have actually started to show esports on cable TV.
But can I say one thing? I don't like putting esports or e-racing with simulation racing. I think simulation racing should be its own thing. Yes, it is obviously electronic racing, electronic sports in that sort of sense, but I think sim racing, it created its own name. It's not an esport, it's simulation racing.
That's why I don't call it an esport. It is e-racing, not an esport. I know it sounds the same, but it's not
I'm not
esports.
contradicting you. No, I'm just, the general public, I don't want people to give a perception that this is, should be called an esport. But in the long-term sense, as you said, what I'd like to know from you, you said in 3 years that you'd find, things would reach the big times. Do you think that's going to be a gradual influx, or will that just be one big boom, like, some viral video goes out and then all of a sudden tens of thousands of viewers flock in?
The difference between the world that we live in as sim racers and sim race broadcasters and esports is one thing. It's licensing. Now, if you look at things again, I'm going to mention League of Legends, and I'll mention things like that. The thing is, League of Legends, it's their own product. They create their own product, they market their own products, they own the rights to their own product, they can do whatever they want with their own product. Well, I think always one of the big issues has been in sim racing has been not necessarily getting the product out there, because of course people license it, but then actually what do you do with the licenses after you have it? Now, you buy the license to a car, great, but then you don't have any form of relationship really to actually bring the product to the masses. And I think this is why sim racing has always fell flat, because you need to, in this series, for example, in this world, Blanchepont, for example, it's the first time it's really going to happen where you have a vested interest on an endurance scale between a product and a sim provider. Now, NASCAR have been in some ways active with iRacing for the last 6 years, and they've renewed those rights. NASCAR have started a trend, and of course, I think that culturally, you've got the things like the iRacing simulator that happens on NBC's NASCAR daily coverage, that sort of stuff. But licensing's the big thing, and it's not only licensing between cars, licensing between series, and that's that extra leap that racers have had to get used to for a long time, and it's going to take a while, I think, for series promotions, people like IMSA, people like IndyCar, like NASCAR, even dare I say it, Formula 1, DTM, V8 supercars, understand the value of having an electronic counterpart that stands side by side with its main product. Things like League of Legends, things like Dota, things like Call of Duty, all these sorts of things, they don't have to worry about that. There's no third party. There's a third party in sim racing, and that's what makes a difference.
There you go, words of wisdom from Will Vincent. And I think you couldn't have put it any better. And I think, you know what, we'll actually save that for our podcast. What are you doing? Save that for my one. And by the way, where can I find your radio show? You never mentioned it.
If you live in the United Kingdom, in Birmingham, it can be found on DAB Digital Radio. Just look for Scratch Radio. If you look, if you're not in the UK, you can find it scratch.media. It's every Thursday. That is 7 till 8 p.m. GMT, which is 2 till 3 o'clock Eastern Time in the United States of America. I've already guaranteed them that I'm going to have the highest listenership of all time for their radio station. I'm an arrogant, I'm obnoxious, but hey, once in a while, we've got to make it work. So we're going to make it interesting. And actually, the first thing we're talking about is the validity of esports. So, you know what? You've got yourself a little bit of a sneak preview there.
I hate when people, whether it's racing or real world, when people are so easy to criticize somebody to be arrogant. For example, if I went to a job interview, how am I supposed to show off my skills without looking arrogant? You know, it's impossible. And when it comes to sim racing, you know, if you're trying to, you know, swerve past another car or make your way through or do something, not everything is arrogant in this world. I think that word is taken out of context. Out of times it's overused. I think sometimes people are just trying to show their passion and their flair, you know, and, you know, try to show what they're capable of. I think arrogance is the most extreme word you can use, and I think there's a lot more ways to describe people's actions than the word arrogance in racing and off the track as well.
I agree, and it's very easy to label anyone who claims they're better than anyone else as arrogant. It's an interesting point. Just to give you an update on the action, by the way, we've had ourselves the FRT Hawkers Endurance team out of pit road. Of course, they were involved in a battle for P number 3 a little bit earlier on. They are still battling with online sim racing DE-LMP2. This is another question. At some point next year, can we come to an agreement, Johnny, over naming procedures for these LMP2 cars so I don't have to come up with online-simracing.de-LMP2 all the time?
Well, it's better than some of the names we got in the COTF series many months ago. That was a fun series, and if anyone wants to check that out, it's still archived, that race bar. I wish that was still around, but it's not. But yeah, you know what? Maybe in the future, iRacing will say, hey, you can't have this name, and they'll have to do something else. But online-sim race. What about 7-3 Motorsport? That's an interesting name.
It is. It's kind of really hard. 7-3, but you know, I tell you what, I have dyslexia, but it's a pain in the backside to say some of the team names, probably even more so than the driver names in this race. Just having a look, actually, we've had ourselves DWS Racing entering pit road a moment ago, so they are on the pit road, getting themselves a service to their race car. I will say one thing, Johnny. Attrition here has been big. 37 drivers started the race. 23 are remaining. 22 are remaining, actually.
That's ridiculous. For a 10-hour event, there shouldn't be a single car having a DNF. You should be training yourselves to maneuver around traffic. Okay, yes, you know, you're not putting yourself under strenuous, you know, exercises and all this because you're not, you know, professional. This isn't your job. You're doing this for fun as a hobby. But at the same time, this is the top split. This is what's being broadcasted because these guys are the best out there in the endurance world, and to have a rate of attrition that we've had today, it's easy said than done from the commentary booth, but that's because I've been in both seats. I've been in the commentary booth, been in the driver's seat at events like this, is where these drivers know better. They need to prepare more in terms of maneuvering their way around traffic, being more aware, and today I've seen a very poor example about that. Hopefully no kids watching, because they don't want to be learning what's been on display today. But other than that, there has been some good driving, you know, in terms of on your own right now. Francisco Javier Gutierrez there in the number 73 car, P2 overall. He's he's doing a remarkable job, and he's driving out there, watching him for about right around 15-20 minutes right now while we've been talking. It's pure, just nailing apexes, hasn't made a single mistake.
We've got ourselves the opportunity to have a word with Paul Ilbrink in Radical's online organisation. Now, of course, Radicals were right there in the thick of the action at the start of the race. Then, of course, they had themselves an incident. They fell all the way down to the rear of the LMP field. They are currently scored P number 7 in class. They are classified as 8 laps behind the race leader, 2 laps behind the nearest competition. However, are lapping 2 seconds a lap faster than the 2 drivers ahead. So, hello, Mr. Paul Ilbrink. How are things?
Not so good with the car, but or actually the car's pretty good. We're just far down in the race, trying to find a way back upwards.
Been an up and down day really for Radicals because, of course, Jeremy Bootsley, his first podium in iRacing.com World Championship competition, and then your day started off so well here at Road Atlanta. Fell apart a little bit, but it seems to be you don't seem to have the luck as Radicals. And I talked about luck earlier. luck in endurance races just doesn't seem to always go your way.
No, the last couple of races it hasn't. We had a incident quite similar to this one yesterday at the Spa 24-hour race, but in the end it's about making your own luck, I think. So you just have to learn from this and see if there's a way to possibly get through situations next time unharmed.
Now, talking about luck, making your own luck, of course, Matt Backham is a driver who attempted to qualify for the 2016 World Championship Grand Prix Series a quick and dirty way, who missed out by 4 points. But, of course, when you start thinking about the Endurance Championship, Mac may well play a key part in your preparations for that. How much more complicated has it become now, knowing that Mac has to run in the Pro Series and also potentially help you guys out in the Blanche-One Endurance Series?
Not even that, he's also running in Neo, to even further complicate it. But, well, Mac is like a really talented driver, and I think his main focus will be on the Pro Series to see if he can win a championship, and he always manages to find enough practice time with the cars in the Blank Paint Series or HPD. He's like a veteran in it, so it shouldn't be a really big issue for him to run many different cars in the same time period.
Final question. As far as this race goes, you are currently scored in P number 7. Do you think there's any chance of you getting a top 5, or is it just a case now of ticking the laps over, helping to increase your safety rating and getting out of Road Atlanta when all is said and done?
Well, it's difficult to do predictions, but I think our pace is still pretty good and quite a bit quicker than several cars in front, so maybe if we're lucky we can get a top 5, possibly a podium, but we'll have to see how things turn out.
Well, good luck for the remainder of this event. Paula Brink from the Radicals Online organisation, and Johnny will talk about the up and down effect of Radicals, and we have to applaud Jeremy Bouteloup for getting himself onto the podium in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Now, a podium is always something to cherish. If it's in the World Championship, even more so. Jeremy Bouteloup, I think, this year is in the list of people to keep an eye out for next year.
Yeah, were you listening to when I said that earlier? I can't remember if you were on, but yeah, that's pretty much exactly word for word what I said. Was Jeremy Bouteloup, good minds think alike, is next year he's going to have to really, people are going to have to watch out for him. And talking about Mac, though, and I spoke about this constantly during the broadcast, was he's leaving an impression to all these drivers, whether he automatically gets a license or not, whether he has to take part in the Pro Series, which he does now.
Yeah.
And the fact that any battle he's taking place, yes, he stuffed up that battle with Hugo, who was, at Suzuka, was it? Yeah, when he collided with Hugo at the final corner, that was one mistake. But apart from that, all the poise he had, passing drivers throughout the race, even today, incredible pace. He leaves a scary impression to drivers that don't really know much about him, that have to go through film and videotapes to find out in the history books to say, who is Mac Backham? So he's a driver to look out for. But going back to Jeremy, in my opinion, the most improved driver award would go to him. From me, he gets my vote. Incredible performance from P24 in the standings in 2014. To see what he has achieved towards the end of the year, getting a podium as the number 902 leader of this race enters the pit lane. He is well deserving of that. But Robert Jackman into the pits.
Indeed, he is. We've also had TMA Endurance on pit road. We've had the bloody Dutch car Liam Quinn on pit road as well. Very quickly, don't forget, if you are an iRacer and you're going to post stuff on our YouTube page, then you are still bound by the iRacing.com terms and conditions. So if you're going to post stuff that, would offend people, remember the fact that you might end up being suspended. We don't like it. Play safe, kids. Be nice to each other. We're an online racing community. There's no need for racism. There's no need for sexism. There's no need for all this incessant trolling. Enjoy the race that you've got in front of you. Come on. I think that's rather well done there, Johnny. I can't say anything else, otherwise I might get myself into trouble.
Yeah, I thought that was you who left the channel, but it was Paul Ulbrink who's still with us.
Yeah.
So I thought you like rage quitted, but no, you didn't. You left your mark, and Robert Jackman out in the way of his pit box, and he's approaching that wonderful turn too. I love the challenge of this corner. Reminds you of that Sochi left-hander, which unfortunately isn't in iRacing, and even the Bahrain International Circuit, which isn't in iRacing either. You know, you got those sort of double apex braking zones that it's so easy to lock up, and it's so hard to get your line right. I think if you had to challenge a trainer driver to get a feel for the brake pedal, you need to design some sort of racetrack where you just constantly have double apex braking zones while you're, turning and braking at the same time. That's the perfect way to learn how to modulate that brake pedal. Yeah, exactly. And there are many other racetracks at the moment, but there's a few that spring to mind, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I think for me, Road America, I mean, Robin Miller always calls it the toughest test of road racing in North America. I'm not that far away from disagreeing with him. He's a very, very eloquent man. He makes a good point. And it's so great to see the Verizon in-car series going there once again next year. They're making a return to Wisconsin on road racing terms. Of course, they've been at Wisconsin and in Milwaukee Wild for many years. And you made a really good point a moment ago, Johnny, as well, about Matt Backham. Now, everyone knows that I'm a huge football fan. Huge American football, huge college football fan, and I could say a couple of team names in both NFL and college football terms that you don't know the team. You're not even a fan of college football or the NFL, but you know they are decent teams. People like the Green Bay Packers, for example. People like Alabama and Notre Dame in college football. If you get the representation for being fearless, it's having that yellow helmet that Senna wore. Matt Backham has the pink helmet. It means it's worth half a second lap. It's worth 2 places in some races. People are just, I've had it. I've had people know who I am and just be like, go past me. I know you're faster. But you know what? I wasn't faster. I'm going to take the position anyway. It's a reputation that people give.
Yeah, and you leave your mark on the racetrack and off the racetrack. Some guys can be very cuddly, like a teddy bear off the racetrack, and then on it they'll be, swerving, saying, get out of my way, this, whatever, but they won't be saying it. They'll just be, using physical car movements to try to intimidate you as well. Racing is, when you start to, I don't like the word overthink. I think people use that too easily to make themselves look better than somebody else, but I think if you think about the smart people in sim racing, those who think enough, and that when you think enough, and when you think you're thinking enough, it's not enough. You've got to be thinking, you've got to be on your toes all the time. Any little piece, you've got to be, understanding, where are the marbles positioned on the racetrack, for example, for some of these drivers. Robert Jackman there, 3-lap lead. He's got to be thinking how this track is going to evolve, Where is he going to catch some of these lap cars in front? He's going to be talking to his team to keep himself, motivated. Some drivers fall asleep. There are some drivers who love to get into a rhythm and not talk. But, for example, some drivers like me, I've had races before when I get really, really bored on my own that I just start to get into a conversation with my engineer almost, starting to constantly talk maybe 2 times a lap just to keep my head in the game. Not because there's anything to talk about, just to, just say, oh, update me on this, update me on that. If you're thinking you're on the edge, you create a name for yourself in the sim racing world, and that can be done off the racetrack and on it as well. And there's so many factors. How long have we been talking for? Half an hour? Yeah. It's an interesting conundrum to think of. There's so many aspects to it. I could be here all day. I might write a book about it if I have time.
Well, let's run yourself then through your top 8 in each of your classes. 4 hours and 9 minutes left of this, the inaugural full race distance of the iRacing.com Petit Le Mans. And in your LMP division, it's 3-lap difference right now between Autobahn Motorsport and 7-3 Motorsports. Now, you've got 3 drivers, P2 through 4, on the same lap. They are 7-3 Motorsports, HPD, Then you got yourself onlinesimracing.de-LMP2. And the FRT Hawkers Endurance team. That's behind them in P5 is Speed Asylum Red. Then it's the Pro S Racing -FR -HPD #1 car in P6. And it goes online in P7, and then Mana MP Motorsports. They round out your top 8. Have a look then at your PT division. Planet Sim Sports leads by 2 laps right now. Then it's Red Devolution Racing car. They are 2 laps back in second. 29 Motorsports A further lap back in third. And the same lap as them is Phoenix Moonshine and the Excelsior Racing team. Core Sim Racing P6, 4 laps back. Then Grip TV Nation. And then 49 Motorsports B round out your top 8 in your GT field. To run through the list of retirees, it is very long. In reverse order. Most recently, we've had ourselves Onyx Verge out of the race. Justin Hoppe is out. Brandon Garcia, Scott McIntyre, Sergio Rodrigo Jr., Mark Harris, Romeo Marshall, Philip Sudbeck, Leonard Ratt, Valenia Pienza, Jonathan Boutel, Nipa Toto, Norbert Lita, and Mark Pickford are all classified as out of the event. Give you an update on who they are. They are How's Your Going Racing, More Ultra Sport, Some Racing Mechanics, PRT, Abernathy Racing Team, E-Racing, Oil Motorsport from your LMP division. Then it's DWS Racing, One Row Simsport GTI, GT Racing Gold, Shark Motorsport, Bit of the Mall, Team VSR, CTC Racing Red in your GT division. There's your update. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance, Johnny. Apparently. But we're not sponsored by Geico, so we won't mention them.
Yeah, definitely not. You know what I like? I like that Affleck duck. I miss that
Affleck.
duck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very cutie duck. You know what? Subscribe to iRacing YouTube channel and Racebot TV, or you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna shoot the little ducky from the Affleck ad.
No!
So you guys need to subscribe, because that duck is a very cutie duck, and yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. Nevertheless, Will, I was going to go back to something about sim racing and teams. I've noticed there are a couple of teams out there where from one year to another they've had a strong set of drivers, and you know, it has to be said, sim racing is definitely mostly about the drivers you put into a team. You know, you don't have engineers or anything like that. Sometimes the team manager can make a difference as well in terms of leadership, but sometimes adding a driver to that team who's not going to be fast or he's not going to be slow, but he's just a guy that can bring the team together. He can, you know, give guys motivation constantly, you know, gets along with everybody. Sometimes a driver like that makes a huge difference just to the atmosphere of a team. And when these drivers say, hey, you know, I'm more motivated to race, I'm more motivated to test, and you're putting in an extra half an hour a day, you know, you multiply that with 365 days a year, you're essentially getting a half an hour a day ahead of your opponents. So if you're a team manager, you're not always just looking for the fastest guy out there. You know, you definitely want the fastest drivers, but sometimes drivers that get along with each other, you know, it can make a huge difference to team atmosphere, and it's something that's overlooked in the sim racing world. And this is what we see today, team-based racing in the endurance world. And these guys get along, test together, and they want to succeed and win here today. And so far, the Autobahn Motorsports car are doing the best job of that.
Yeah, and people forget that I have been a team manager as well. There's many things I've done on iRacing, and I will tell you one thing. When your purpose as a team is to basically sit there, work on a setup, go racing on a Monday night, then go racing again, then refresh for the next week, it gets boring. You need to have friends. I mean, that's the whole thing. Teammates, in most cases, are friends first. Now, I've had a couple of teammates who I won't call a friend, and they won't call me a friend. And you can tell the dynamic is very different, because if you're not going to call yourself friends, you don't have the truth of the fact, the only thing you can do is you can talk about the racing. And if that gets boring, got nothing. Nothing at all. But these guys, especially for the 24-hour races, it's making sure as well, if one of them makes a mistake, like if you throw an interception in football, it's not the end of the world. just basically have to move on. And I love my the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, Chuck Budagano, says one play at a time. That's all it is. It's one play at a time. 4 hours, 4 minutes remaining in the iRacing.com Petit Le Mans. Tweet us. Use the hashtag iRacingLeMans. GT Racing still going, still strong, a little bit broken. Running Garcia. How was she going? Top split. Was trying to try and solo a race, but lost it just before halfway. That is why the car is out of the event, Johnny.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, too many cars out of this event, and with 4 hours and 3 minutes remaining, the field has sort of calmed down a little bit. We had a lot of action in the past 1 or 2 hours. So far, in around about the last 45 minutes to an hour, it's really, slowed down in terms of action that's gone on the racetrack. We're talking about that. Battle for P2 and P3 in that HPD class. Between the online sim racing Deutschland, whatever you want to pronounce it in, whatever language you are. Yeah. They're currently in third, the 7.3 Motorsport car in P2, and they're very close behind each other right now. So 3.5 seconds separating those two vehicles on the racetrack. And so this is where you could see a little bit of a position change here. And they're both fighting for those final 2 podium positions.
Just to give you an update as well, Dennis Garise and that Vortex Sim Racing car, they have taken that car behind the wall. It looks as though they are done for the day. Now, I saw a puff of smoke come from that Vortex Sim Racing HPD car about 4 minutes ago as they tried to refire her up. And it looks as though that thing is indeed going to be terminal. So, Vortex Sim Racing, of course, they won the 24 Hours of Spa. They didn't come in as favourites. They didn't come in Spa as favourites. They came in, though, knowing that a podium wasn't too far away. And they are now in P12 and out of this evening's event. Dunyan still with a huge lead over his competition. Robert Jackson still with a huge lead over his competition as well. 3 laps in your LMP division, 2 laps in your GT division. What we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap up now. This is our number 6 in the books for the iRacing.com Petit Le Mans here on Racesport TV and on iRacing Live. Don't forget, we have still got more coverage here to go. We're going to step aside. We're going to have ourselves a look at a track coming soon to iRacing. This is a track that people spent years campaigning for. It's a track that you can pay 20 euros and go and do a lap at. It's a track known quite simply as the Nordschleife. It is coming very soon to iRacing, and I guarantee there will be a 24-hour racetrack at the original Green Hell coming soon to iRacing Live. So, sit back, enjoy this video. We'll be back for our 7th hour of coverage after these messages. You're watching Racesport TV on iRacing Live.
We're so excited to be bringing the Nürburgring to everybody. It's by far the most requested track that we've ever had. I've been with iRacing since the beginning. I can't tell you how many people I've met at trade shows or racetracks and demos that we've done all across the United States and even in Europe. And it's always the most requested track that we've had. And it's always been kind of a sad answer, no, we don't have it. When are you bringing it? And we never really had a good answer. And obviously we announced this last year, and it's super exciting. I mean, it really is one of the premier tracks in the entire world.
The Nürburgring, to me as a race fan, is the holy grail of racetracks. Even from the gaming aspect, just getting that car around that track was a personal achievement by itself. It's kind of got this iconic status to it that makes it different than any other track in the world.
We actually have a lot of history with the Nürburgring, dating back about 20 years. We created a version of the track for Grand Prix Legends, which was a Formula One simulation for the PC. But this will be the first time that we've worked on the track with laser scan data, highly precise measurements, and of course the iRacing standards of quality. So we're really excited about this project and we can't wait to release it. There are two main facilities at Nürburgring. There's the Grand Prix course, which is basically a modern F1 style racetrack. And then there's the Nordschleife itself, which has been around for decades. And of course the combined course, where you can take the Grand Prix course, drive around it, and then there's a point where you branch off onto the Nordschleife and you continue there all the way around the Nordschleife and then back down to the Grand Prix course. And the end result is an extremely large, unique racetrack. We arrived with a really large crew. Actually, 4 of us made the trip, and we spent a week there photographing the track, taking video recordings of the racetrack, the surroundings, the scenery, the towns. And when it's all said and done, we returned home with a massive amount of data. If you took our largest project ever, this is probably 4 times that size. So it's going to take a lot of work, but it's really our plan and our intent not to cut any corners and really produce and create the best version of the Nürburgring possible that we can. The terrain and topography of the area that surrounds the Nürburgring is really important to the character and accuracy and feel of the track. We're really working on new ways and methods and types of data that we can use to build the best topography and best terrain model possible. And it will be something never before seen in iRacing or racing sims in general. We have a laser scan of the track, and that laser scan is incredibly dense. Essentially, there's so many points that you could take a quarter and lay it on the laser points and the quarter wouldn't fall through. So we're taking that level of detail from the scan and we're trying to translate that into what you see in the sim.
You won't find the level of detail that we bring to tracks anywhere else. You guys expect that from us, and we'll continue to do that. It's not just purely laser scanned. It really will have personality, and I think that that's what's going to make our track unique.
Welcome back to this coverage of the iRacing.com Petit Le Mans here on Racesport TV and on iRacing Live. Well, Peter Smith is on pit road right now. Number 73 machine, 73 Motorsports HPD is on a pit road, getting himself a service, getting himself some fresh tyres, getting himself ready to go back out, hopefully onto the racetrack. You see a little bit of damage to the left-hand side of that car, but it looks as though he is A-okay for the time being. Pit stop is ticking along as we talk, and well, Dennis Grease, of course, most recently has come back on towards pit road after basically coming out after half an hour wait. Dennis Grease is still going around this racetrack, but not very fast. In fact, he's pulled into pit road. It looks like his day may well actually be done. Let's have a look though. Commander Sim Sport still with a 2-lap lead. And the number 73 car, by the way, of Peter Smith, we have to say, that might be terminal. We're getting word that he actually crashed whilst we were away. Trying to figure out what happened to him. Trying to get the replay back up for the 73 Motorsports car. Johnny, another driver making an unforced error, potentially, in being out of the event. We just actually lost Johnny, so we'll keep an eye out then. Let's have a look. We'll go on board with this 7-3 Motorsport. Oh, it's on the final corner down the crest. And what did I do at the top of this broadcast? People think that it's okay down there. Once you get out the chicane, it will all be okay. It wasn't. That driver is out of the event. Let's have a look then. Through the chicane he comes. Exit of the chicane. Power on. Slams it into the... Oh, that's a horrible... Pete Smith out of the event. That is not what he would want at all there. He's out. Simple as that. Johnny, another driver, another set of unforced errors.
Yeah, Peter Smith. So 7-3 Motorsport car, and I spoke about it before, you know, unforced errors, and that's not what you want. You know, you're in a HPD car, you're faster. It's, yes, it's, you know, difficult. It was easy to lose control because you're traveling at such immense speeds, but you know, they had a fairly comfortable position, and now it's all butchered, and it's we've crossed below the 4-hour mark, and he's been at a pretty odd section of the racetrack as well. You don't see many people losing it on the exit there. I think it's just a bit of a lapse of concentration. He missed that initial apex with, I think he got onto the marbles on the outside.
Yeah, and the thing is, that portion of the racetrack, you know, it is scary, but most people, if they know this track, can deal with that final couple of corners. I'm actually having a look at Robert Jackman. 9 LMP drivers separated by 20 laps right now, Johnny.
Yeah, that's pretty good, you know, in endurance terms. As I'm still on the replay. But yeah, Jorn Jens heads that list for Commander Sim Sport, and what a team they are, you know, always seeing them leading the GT class. Every race that I'm commentating on, race that I'm watching, broadcasting, racing in even, Commander always going to be up there for you. And we look at the HPD class though, you know, as you mentioned, Will, a few teams there, you said before, not all of them are expecting podiums. But I think coming into this race, you're expecting something out of the ordinary to happen, because if you're confident in your consistency, you'll pick off the pieces from the faster guys, you know, slowly falling down the order due to mistakes.
Yeah, I agree. And finish first, Johnny. First, you have to finish.
Or you can do Ricky Bobby and say, if you ain't first, you're last.
You know, I absolutely hate that phrase. I absolutely hate it. And I'm trying to figure out who it was. It's actually, I believe it was David Coulthard. He said this, and this was in the F1 forum at the end of the last Grand Prix, which was held in what country, Johnny? Japan?
It was Bahamas. No, was it Japan? I'm not sure.
Did you just say Bahamas?
Yeah, I was being sarcastic.
I was going to say, yeah. Yeah, and after the Japanese Grand Prix, David Coulthard did this wonderful piece, and he explained, look, I simply wasn't good enough to be a world champion, but just because you can't be the world champion doesn't mean that you can't spend every day trying to improve. That was an incredibly emphatic speech by him. You know, twice in 2 races, the end of the 1997 championship and the first race in 1998 championship. He got told to move out of the way for Mika Hakkinen. Both times he did it, but actually what he did is he spent a lot of his career trying to just be better at what he does rather than what the other competition does. And your first person you have to beat when you race is yourself.
Yeah. Well, in a good way, obviously, you mean, because beating yourself mentally is not good. You'll destroy your own career. But, maximizing on your errors is important in racing, and we'll speak about it more a little bit later, because the number 17 car is under a little bit of more trouble here. The Manor MP Motorsport HPD vehicle, as it runs wide there and clips the wall as well during that middle part of the racetrack on the run down to turn 6-7. So another error once again. It's coming more from the HPD cars rather than the GT cars, I've noticed.
You know the reason why? It's because they have to be so pristine and perfect. I think if they go offline, they are literally tiptoeing around this racetrack. I don't think the NMP drivers are used to the marbles.
Yeah, that could certainly be one case. You know, I mean, as well, LMP drivers, people complain that, alright, they're driving a faster car, it grips to the racetrack more, it's easier. But at the same time, you're traveling at high speeds, as I mentioned before. The GT car can be difficult to drive in a way, but the HPD car is, a challenge, and that's why it's the top class, because it's the fastest car out there. And generally, the fastest car out there is most likely the one that's most difficult to win a race in.
Well, we just had someone on YouTube.
A group sense.
Yeah. We just had someone on YouTube, by the way, just learned for the first time what Coanda is. We're going to play a game here on Racesport TV. Does Hugo Louise know where his own team name comes from? Hugo Louise, are you there? Yes, Hugo Louise, he is there. Hugo Louise, what does Coanda mean? He doesn't want to answer. He's come up with an excuse already, Johnny.
Oh, Mike, yeah, what is this? Mike doesn't work on OBS.
Yeah.
What's OBS?
We don't believe you. We don't believe you. We don't believe. Hugo, type it. You got 15 seconds. What does Coanda stand for? Of course, many of you will know that Hugo Louise is one of the top 2 drivers in the Coanda Sim Sports organisation. But yeah,
is
interesting
it the
thing.
Coanda exhaust?
Coanda effect, yeah.
That could be. Oh, just answer the question, Hugo. I'm waiting. I'm staring at my screen in avid beauty of this name, and I'm not seeing anything pop up. Anyway,
I think that's time up. That's in Wiki now, doesn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, back to you, Will. Oh wow, we gotta.
That was copied and pasted.
All right.
Yeah. If you're gonna do that, what you need to do is get the pronunciation out of it. Might make it a little bit more believable. Hugo Louise has just failed our challenge. Battles going on track, Johnny. Well, you've got 1 or 2. You've got Adam Gosling versus Elliot Hoffman right now. This is P7, Grip TV Nation, and P8, 49 Motorsport, open bracket, B, closed bracket.
Yeah. So, we see there 49 Motorsports as usual. That 049 car, the number 49 essentially. And, well, at the moment, 7.1 seconds to make up on that Grip TV Nation car. And a Grip TV, a rival of ours. TV, I don't know if that's, should we be broadcasting that? I'm joking, I'm kidding. So, 49 Motorsports, if Elliot Huffman now 6.9 seconds, already gained a couple of tenths. What keeps drivers motivated is when you see a 10th gained, and you say, hey, there's 3 hours and 45 minutes left. Then later on you see 3 tenths gained, and there's 3 hours and 30 minutes left. You notice that says, hey, I'm catching this guy, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And it starts to, you keep pushing, you start to slowly make your way through the field. As a few HPD cars also traversing their way around Road Atlanta here. Very nicely as well. The Radicals Online car, is there anything, did they make a pit stop, I believe?
I believe. Yes, they have. I haven't made many pit stops here. No one's actually made their first pit stop of the day, but of course, they've all made many pit stops. The most recent person on pit road I think my live time on scoring might have actually crashed here, Johnny, because I'm not getting the data that I'm supposed to normally be having. Let's have a look. Please hold the line. Random fact, did you know this is the 302nd lap now that Autobahn Motorsport are doing?
Yeah, that's pretty good. 300, so around a minute 15, a minute 13, the fastest. Well, 1 minute 11.7, the fastest lap of the race for, or at least fastest lap of this stint for the Autobahn crew. And well, times 300 laps. That's a lot of time covered. And if you want to look at how much time covered, 6 hours, 20 minutes, and 7 seconds. So incredible to see these guys still driving out there. Obviously a team event. It's good to see iRacing implementing that, and we get to see what we see here today.
Indeed. So, having a look through the field right now, trying to see if there are any outstanding battles going on. We have got ourselves Ahmed Yamin and Tabajara, 49 Motorsports A versus Phoenix Moonshine. Now, this is one that we had at the beginning of the race, and then Bajada fell back a little bit. These two people are both back behind the wheel of their cars, and last time by, 3 times to a second faster was Ahmed Yamin. Little by little, I think he's going to try and start closing the gap.
Yeah, as always, as I mentioned before, that motivates you, especially in these dull stages of the race where you're just traversing away through the forest here at Road Atlanta. It's very nice to see. iRacing does a nice job. I suck up a lot, don't I? But nevertheless, iRacing do an incredible job of just, picturing a racetrack absolutely perfect in the virtual world. And every bump, laser scanned, every ad board. Things change over time, of course. Not everything's going to be the same. As a couple of drivers, the GTRS team purple car there, they're currently 22nd overall, side by side with a GT car through turn 10. I thought it was going to be a little bit of a hairy situation, but it's all good. But yeah, I want to know what's next for track technology. We got laser scanning, we've got this. Is there anything else that iRacing haven't covered that you think they could?
4 letters twice. Dirt and rain.
Oh yeah? Okay, dirt and rain. I thought you were going to say formation laps.
No.
I know formation laps aren't important, but I just love to see them. That's why I want it so bad.
I just think I think that, of course, you have them on ovals because you have the warm-up lap. But you know what? On road racing, I just think it's too much of a pain. And I just imagine the fact that someone's going to mess up their grid spot and then doing it. You know what? Most people just want to go racing. Maybe in the big races, maybe in the World Championship, yes. But if I was to have a formation lap every time that I started doing a road race, I'd tell you what, I'd probably race even less than I already do. And it's been about a year and a half since I actually had the chance to go racing.
Well, actually, that's true. It's a good point. Is that I'd put it only with the top, levels, so World Championship and stuff. I think as a driver, when you set yourself on the grid, yes, you've just finished your warm-up session, you go straight to the race. But sometimes that formation lap just gives you a time to settle in, not having to push and drive. You're just coasting around, talking with your team, last-minute checkups. When engine temperature, brake temperature, tire temperatures, all those start to become more of a factor, that's where formation laps are going to be critical and need to be implemented so drivers can manage them. And it's something just to think about for the future. But yeah, as you mentioned, there's been countless times, especially you've seen a lot of times in the amateur leagues, when people who are new to sim racing position their car in the wrong grid spot when there's basically a box that tells you where to put your car. It's very frustrating. So I doubt that would happen in World Championship competition, but you're right. I think if you avoid it in the casual area where you're just wanting to race, a bit of fun, not too serious, just enjoy yourself, it's a different question.
Just to let you know, we have got ourselves in number 49, part of Ahmed Yamin, entering pit road as we speak. So, pit road continues to be a busy place here. We've got ourselves Ahmed Yamin coming down then to make a pit stop. Will he stay in behind the wheel of that race car? Well, we're going to find out. No, he won't. It'll be Dexter Castro getting in behind the wheel of that one. So Dexter Castro is now going to be driving that number 49 machine. Peter Smith is still on pit road getting repairs done to his race car. Gap-wise, you've got yourself Adam Gosling, Elliot Hoffman, still scrapping out P16, P17 overall. Of course, that is the number 7 and 8 in class drive.
Yeah, and 3.5 hours left in this race. As a man, what a bossy name. This guy just left the server, Andre Hegheim. If that's a swaggish name, I like that. I've always felt bored of my name. I don't like my name that much, you know. I wish I had like a cooler name. That's just the thoughts that go on in my mind when I'm half asleep. But yeah, you know, good to see a lot of these teams still racing out there. We haven't spoken much about CTC Racing Black Team, 20th overall. And, you know, they've had a number of drivers out there, and Andre Hegheim is one of those in that team who's had 2 stints into the car. Just helping engineering, giving some tips out to his team. And he's obviously taking a break at the moment. He, you know, those teams trailing back there still have all to fight for. Who knows where they're going to end up towards the end of this event. Anything can happen, and we saw the leaders, such as Vortex, lose the lead so easily. That team's out of the race, 65 laps behind, and counting. It's just going to get worse and worse.
With 3 hours, 37 minutes, and 27 seconds to go, and we've got Sven Demo on pit road right now. That is the Red Devolution racing car taking another pit stop here today. So 3.5 hours of this event to go. We do apologise that we have lost ourselves a little bit of data in terms of our live timing and scoring. Working ourselves on lap number 308 in this event. Plenty more action to go. As I say, we do apologise for the fact that somehow we have lost ourselves coverage of the intricacies going on in this broadcast, but timing itself does continue. Hi Rachel.
I will.
What do you have for dinner?
I want you to guess.
Pizza.
Damn it.
You know what? We're going to have to one day put out an open call to someone like Domino's and say, look, you just fancy being a sponsor. Yeah.
Free pizza when broadcasting, and we'll promote it and talk about the luscious Domino's flavour.
Yeah. It could be worse, ladies and gentlemen. We could be giving you DraftKings and FanDuel commercials.
Yeah, no.
Use promo code NOPE to get no dollars free. Yeah, Rachel, not much has happened in the last hour or so, but the calm before the storm. We always know GT, they find a way getting it back together towards the end of the race.
Yeah, and I do know that Autobahn Motorsports, well, before I went off for amazing Domino's pizza.
Did you actually have Domino's as well?
No, it was from Tesco.
Oh, okay.
Before I went away, like what they'd said during their interview, like Autobahn Motorsports were desperately trying to find a way to smear that car across one of the walls. So glad to see they're still running.
They are. They're not only still running, they have actually been able to gain a bit more time, Johnny. We don't talk about the leaders much when they're 2 laps in front of the field, but they are still running, they are still leading, they are still just pushing it along.
Yeah, that's the key. As the leader, you want to make up as much time as you can, and you should never be satisfied, in my opinion, with just winning by 10 seconds. You know, you always... It depends on your mentality. I always want to dominate. I want to win by as much as I can. I don't want to necessarily demoralize opponents. I'm not a mean guy. I just want to win by as much as I can and you know, work hard to achieve that. Because you never know. If you're, you know, leading by a lap and you make a mistake and you all of a sudden lose by a lap, finish in second. But if you've worked hard to gain a 4-lap lead and you make a mistake that costs you a lap, you've still got a 3-lap lead or 2-lap lead in the end. So, you know, it's really important if you're in the lead to keep your concentration and keep pushing away. And looking at lap times, for example, that Coanda car at times, I'm looking, the way that it's negotiating around traffic is, you know, a second or 2 faster almost every lap from the rest of the GT cars. And not only does it have a clean track, but it negotiates the traffic well, as I just mentioned.
Yeah. Well,
One
Johnny-
thing I'd just actually like to say to that, Will, is when we talk about drivers pushing and not pushing and taking it easy. I think it's often quite difficult for perhaps some viewers who don't race themselves to understand when these guys are pushing so hard. It's not that they are being reckless. It's not that they're trying to gain spots by pushing too hard. In a lot of cases, it's that simply have a better way of navigating the track in certain circumstances where you may just be faster. It can look more abrupt, it can look more risky perhaps, but at the same time sometimes it's more stable because the car is keeping its momentum in a certain direction, it's keeping its weight across to a certain side of the car, which makes it a lot more stable and having a more centered balance, which can mean you can spin more easily. So sometimes going flat out is actually faster and safer. And, you know, if they've got a good rhythm going and they can navigate traffic quickly without having to slow down too much, power to them. It's something that's an acquired skill, but when you've got it, it's a major advantage.
Indeed so, major advantage. But also, don't forget as well that most drivers run anywhere between 85 and 95% most of the time. You try and get them to chill out, you happen to have a 1998 Monaco situation. Try and get them to push too hard, that's when they're going to crash. Johnny, we are going to say goodbye to you in a moment. Before we let you go, tell us about the Simon Report.
Yeah, the Simon Racing Report. I'll plug it in again. I plugged it in before and I got a few likes, and it's good to see the community getting out there and help of supporting me. But yeah, the Simon Racing Report, an all-new podcast, hopefully releasing episode 1 sometime in the next few days or this week. And episode 0, the prelude, is out there on YouTube. So search up the Simon Racing Report, Simon. I pronounce my name in that sense. It's not Simon, but
Shut up.
It's a good project, and I'm really looking forward to it. You know, every week having different guests on and discussing a lot of stuff. You know, a lot of BS as well, as I described in the description. And I think it's good for the future. I'm really looking forward to it, and thanks to all you as well for helping me getting involved in that. And before I leave here as well, it's been good day. The WCS as well as the Petit Le Mans here at Road Atlanta. It's a good credit to all the hard work, and I think I mustn't forget the fans out there who watch, which is why we broadcast this all for them.
Indeed so. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Johnny Simone is officially leaving the building. We're going to step aside for a minute. We're back with more after this.
Green flag flies. The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun.
For iRacing to get Le Mans is huge. I mean, this is a unique event, a unique track where, half of the track is public road, so you can never test on it, you never get experience on it, and it's 8 miles in length, 4-minute lap time in a GT car. So, even if you're here for an hour of testing, that's only 15 laps, and you're only going to see the corner 15 times that day. The first section going through the Dunlop area is pretty unique. It's got elevation change and off camber. Then you go down Mulsanne into the chicanes, and You know, the straights are unbelievably long. It's a tricky track, and you know, every year I've come here, this is being my 4th year, you learn something new every time.
We've wanted to add Le Mans to iRacing for a long time, and we've really been working hard towards it for the last 5 years. But really, things only came together in the last week leading up to this race. So it was a real scramble to put everything together. The majority of Le Mans is public roads. So when they're preparing for the 24-hour race, it's really the only time that we can visit to laser scan and photograph the track so that we can recreate it in iRacing. We work closely with the ACO to get essentially exclusive access to the facility and everything that we needed to get the laser scanning and photographic reference that we need to create the track. We were very fortunate to be at Le Mans at the most important time of the year and gain that experience of being there. And we're going to really do the best we can to put that into our work and making sure that the Le Mans in iRacing is the best Le Mans, the most exciting and accurate recreation of the track possible.
Welcome back to Road Atlanta. Having a look at a battle between two broadcasters in some ways. You got yourself Grip TV Nation, team number 8 in your GT field, Nicholas Bailey. 49 Motorsport, sponsored by the Global Sim Racing channel in P number 9 in GT. Sean Yent is on pit road for Commander Sim Sports. They're sponsored by RaceSpot TV. I have no idea who RaceSpot TV are though, Rachel.
Never heard of them. They must be very good.
Nah, I think they suck. But also, it might be worth very quickly to give a shout out to GSRC, especially one of the many broadcasters all coming together to help the iRacing community for the 2015 World Cup of iRacing, coming your way soon to iRacing Live. Having a look through the field then, as I say, we're talking about Grip TV versus 49 Motorsport. Gap's actually come up a little bit there. Now 1.6 seconds as prototype traffic going through right now. 2 cars going to breeze to the right hand side as they work themselves down in towards the chicane. That is a Radicals Online car. Pretty wide they go. Not much of an issue. There we are, Rach.
Oh, not much has changed. It's been away, of course. The number of pizzas in my house is reduced.
Yes. It's okay though. You can always order more.
Good. Looks like Fraser Commander Sim Sport are up now to 3 laps above Red Devolution Racing and are heading out of the pit road now after taking on fuel and tyres. Another stint beginning for Jon Jens in that car. We chatted to him earlier and that car's been dominant so far, Will.
It is. It's got himself a 2-lap advantage, a minimum over its competition. 55.6 second stop, out and away. Off Jon Jens, goes to do another lap. But it just seems to be mechanical for Commander Sim Sports here today. Of course, 1-2 in the final round of the World Championship event. They'd love to cap off their weekend with a W in the endurance side of things as well.
Absolutely, and well, speaking of endurance, this is the first time we've actually done a 10-hour race or longer in these new conditions with the dynamic track surface, and it seems like people have learned a lot.
They have, and we can actually, we're going to spend in one moment's time, just have a look to see where Jon Jens is on track, and he's actually heading himself down into the chicane. Let's ride ourselves a lap or so on board with Jon Jens. Commander Sim Sport leading the way in GT.
Well, that was a lap on board with Farisa Karani Sim Sport and, of course, the driver of Jorn Jens. Behind the wheel, those guys dominant so far in the race as it stands. Just approaching 6 hours and 45 minutes, 15 minutes until we complete hour number 7 of the race so far. We will have a total of 3 hours remaining after that, so this race is really rushing down to the final moment. 3 hours left of 10 hours, and the track completely different to when we first arrived here at Road Atlanta. And pace lap, of course, that track very pale, very white tarmac, very unused by these cars. Now, Black River almost running around the length of this racetrack. And a very good example of the racing line these drivers are using, probably more prominent than the S's. That rubber makes through the undulating, rising and falling terrain like a river of rubber. Which is incredibly poetic, I realise, but I just felt like a bit of a moment. Two interesting things we've seen so far are exits of 5, 4. Rubber doesn't seem to break the line as cars are taking different exits to pass cars out of the S's. So that's something you can probably see there. Marbles building up a line, and as we heard earlier, of course, not much grip at all off that racing line. So drivers to make sure they get passes completed very quickly, or at least in the less grip dependent location. Long braking zone there, denoted approaching the hairpin in the final part of the lap. That was just very chicane even. Just how early these cars are having to brake for that corner. At the front of the race, Autobahn Motorsports and Robert Jackman still leading the way here. 3 laps clear of online simracing.de LMP2 car.
Indeed, they are.
Demanding lead, and welcome back, Will.
Hello. But yeah, they've got a demanding lead, and they seem though to want to carry on pushing the envelope as much as they can. They lost 2.5 that lap, but I don't understand why they're still pushing this hard. I mean, they can drop 2 seconds a lap from now on and still win this race.
Yeah, they are, and it's strong result. Like I said, there's 3 hours and 15 minutes remaining for them to mess it up, if they're going to, and if not, they'll win. It's a situation that only really they can get themselves out of, and I think they're looking strong right now. They've got a survivor mentality, and the team as a whole have done a very flawless race so far. A few bobbles and moments, but they are in a good place. So looking forward to seeing exactly what they can pull off. It'll be the upset win of the season, and a great, well-deserved victory here for that team. They've simply been the ones that did it right. The other teams, as prominent as Radicals and Vortex are, have either made silly mistakes or misjudged a situation, been caught up in something, and Autobahn have read everything they've been in perfectly.
Having a look, online sim racing DE-LMP2 versus FRT Hawkers Endurance. That is down to 27 seconds, and last time by, that's a 1.4 second advantage for Ruben Gutierrez compared to Jacob Lehman. So this gap is coming down. We need to figure out what the fuel strategy is between these two drivers, but potentially we could end up having ourselves a nice little battle going on then for P2 and 3 in class. And of course, we talked about these two earlier being in contention for a podium, Rachel. One of them would get it, but then Vortex decided that they wanted to go do a little bit of off-roading. Now they're both going to get a podium if they finish the race, and Speed Aside and Red, 3 laps back, is wondering, oh, we're not that far away from potentially having our own chance at a podium.
That's very true, and it's a situation they're going to have to really look at over the next 3 hours. You've got to make sure that car is at the finishing line. And looks to be Danny Kane will be hopping on to the Autobahn Motorsports prototype very shortly. So, in fact, he's just come out of the pits, I believe. So, Danny Kane there will be the new driver in that car. They've just left the pits. Looking for a good stint from him. We'll see if he can continue the trend his teammates have put on of a very sound performance.
As we tick it down to 3 hours and 17 minutes remaining. Now, Rachel, we talked with Johnny earlier on about the attrition in today's event. The attrition has been very high today. There's no underestimating that at all. 22 drivers are in this race off the 37 who started. But we've got ourselves 2 Le Mans prototype drivers who are 35 laps plus back from the race leader. You've got 2 other drivers in Le Mans prototypes 20 laps behind their race leader. The prototype drivers have done worse today compared to their counterparts in GT, mainly because of the fact that all the GT drivers still running are separated within 10 laps.
Exactly, and it's one of the natures of this sort of racing that we have this separation, this spread, and it becomes a case of running for that number and running to your own personal race more than anybody else's. This is about personal endurance as much as it is about enduring somebody else, and thankfully that means that we get very exciting racing.
We do, as the gap between Speed Asylum Red and Pro Sim Racing FR-HBD #1 is 46 seconds for the time being. Battles going on in your GT division. Well, 49 Motorsports versus Phoenix Moonshine. That one continues to go on. The gap is 10 seconds right now, and Rachel, last time by, Astro was, having a look, about 3 times per second slower than Joel Tremblay in the Phoenix Moonshine number 27 machine.
Yeah, they are indeed, and looking forward to see what the Moonshine car can do. Always one of the favourites to have a look at. Of course, we did lose the Spirit of Le Mans machine early on with the only Mr. Le Mans, Jonathan Patel. Fortunate end to their race, especially at the Petit Le Mans, a race he likes because it has Le Mans in the title. But disappointing. But the Moonshine drivers always give us a good entertainment, and Joel Tremblay's a very sound race car driver, so looking forward to seeing him push this car a lot harder. They're currently sitting up in P4 in class. They can go after 49 Motorsports. They also have to watch out for Excelsior behind them. All 3 cars on the same lap. Well, we have seen them tangle with 49 in the past. It would be nice to see them get up there and actually make a play.
Indeed, and the gap between Phoenix and Excelsior is 38 seconds right now. Now, we do know that the McLaren has the largest fuel tank of the lot here in terms of your GT times, but we want to make sure that we get ourselves an interesting race towards the end, and I'm thinking that we might well get that. Jason Gerard is running in the Excelsior Racing Team number 6 machine. One thing that so often we don't talk about in endurance racing is the amount of time it takes to then do a driver change. That could be the difference, and it's not necessarily going to be it now, but in the last hour, that could be the difference between you actually getting yourself a W, getting yourself a podium, or being outside of the top 5. So, if you are Excelsior, if you're Phoenix Moonshine, realistically, Rachel, you want to have one more driver change. That will take place, not this pit stop, but next pit stop.
It will indeed. So, of course, drivers with less, teams with less drivers actually be an advantage here because they can take longer stints and they'll have to do less driver swaps. But at the same time, it's going to be very interesting to see if you can actually get those drivers through. Make sure you, of course, meet iRacing's minimum conditions to actually pass this. Not sure we've got any Ironman soloists running in this race still, but really good drivers with 2 drivers must make sure they meet that quota.
We did, but they're out, which is a bit of a shame. We had the Aussie team, of course. We saw them earlier on. They were creating some interesting times. How is she going, racing? The 911 car. That was Brandon Garcia there. And Brandon, unfortunately, crashed out. And he's out, Rachel, so we're not going to have any Ironman from this stint.
Fortunately not, and I was looking forward to seeing that. It was definitely an entertaining team.
Indeed so, the 911 car. In fact, actually, another driver out the race would be TNT Racing Gold, Scott McIntyre, also a Canadian car with a 953 number. I'm secretly thinking that these are all just like codes to America or something, and it meant they'd done something wrong without realising. John Jens has got himself a 1-lap advantage over Red Devolution Racing, but we did see, Rachel, Jens was on pit road about 10 minutes ago. Red Devolution Racing haven't yet come on towards pit road. That means that that gap will likely become about 2 laps. In fact, it is 2 laps 3 laps once again before too long. Red Devolution Racing heading themselves through the S's right now. Yornyend isn't a million miles behind them. He's actually coming into the S's as we speak, as Phoenix Moonshine car is exiting turn number 6 now.
Yeah, they are, and Rick is making sure they actually have this car dialed in properly now. To have seen the cars change a lot, Will, so it's going to be tricky if that car will hold on.
Yep, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you wondering what's going to happen next, in 11 minutes time and 24 seconds, we're going to head ourselves to part 3 of the iRacing.com Petit Le Mans stream. And I'm going to be bringing it all the way home with you with Rachel Whiteford. Hugo Louise will get some well-deserved rest, of course. He ran early on today in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Don't know actually how well he did, but who knows. Hugo Louise, he didn't win, Rachel, we know that much, and he didn't come second. He didn't come third. He didn't come fourth, so his best bet would have been P5, in my opinion, involving 2 different incidents, apparently.
Well, it sounds like Hugo's driving, so we can expect that. Probably one of them involving Matt Backham.
Yeah, hopefully not like Suzuka once again. Of course, the big story out of today was the fact that you had, on one hand, De Jong winning, but Matt Backham does have to run in the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing 4 points away from making the cut. Well, let's have a look then. You got yourselves on pit road the Manor MP Motorsports car of Thomas Baker having himself a very long stop on pit road. This is not the type of stop length he would have wanted. Of course, if you got damage, you're going to have to keep it in there for as long as it takes. Bloody Dutch are on P number 8 right now, 20 laps behind the race lead, Rachel. Although they have got some company behind them, only 1 lap back is the 7-3 Motorsports car, Peter Smith, who have just recently come back out onto the racetrack.
Yep, they have 7-3 down a few spots, of course. They've had an incident so far, so they were on the podium at one point, and it's disappointing to see them down there off that podium, but they are still running, so they've still got a chance. That car's definitely been battered. It can still run, which is the important thing here. Down 21 laps, and Radicals Online back into a top 5 after that early mishap, so it's a comeback I don't think even they saw.
Well, yeah, and we talked to Murder On and said, do you think you can get any more positions? They're like, well, we don't know. Interestingly enough, the next gap to them is 44 seconds to Speed Asylum Red. That one, they should be able to make up without any issue. They can't get onto a podium unless one of the drivers out front, they crash race.
Not going to happen, I don't think. There's too many cars up there that have made no mistakes. Speed Asylum Red are pretty much intact as far as I can tell. They are like cars in one piece. The FRT Hawkers, we've not really mentioned them all race long, but that car is in completely perfect condition. That's 2 cars that have done nothing wrong ever. So it's really interesting to see how many cars can get up there and get a podium just by not making mistakes. Same would go as well for OnlineSimRacing.de LMP2 car. They've had no issues, so it always makes me wonder if I just keep the car in one piece, even if you're 1, 2, 3 seconds off the pace, the way these things tend to go, you can always get a podium.
Indeed. Although, at the same time, you could be 3 seconds off the pace. It's not the amount of time you're off pace. Facial awareness to the people around you and yourself that you try and make life as little complicated as possible for those drivers around you. Because you can be 3 seconds off the pace, Rachel, but you can be, very consistent about what you do, or you can be 3 seconds off the pace and weaving like a lunatic.
Well, yeah, 3 seconds off the pace, weaving like a lunatic would be problem. I guess it's just yeah, obviously that's an issue with the race like this, is we do seem to, it comes across as though there's a lot of attrition and Mercedes are the best sim racing teams in the world and they crash. Well, that's going to happen. It probably happens a lot more amongst the less skilled drivers. These guys know their cars very well, they know their setups very well, and they are fairly experienced. Just unfortunately over a 10-hour period a lot of problems will happen. The downside is perhaps the way the system here actually repairs cars isn't as realistic as it might be in the real world. Certain contacts might not happen, or you have to take in a fourth wall of the commentary, virtual commentary thing again, is there are net contacts, there are computer issues. a lot of times you can fix those. Let's not forget as well that real races do have yellow flag full course cautions a lot more than we would. You'd get cars back on lead laps, you'd get cars not falling laps down as quickly. So it's just one of those situations where you end up in this position, and one of the things that makes sim racing, endurance racing possibly harder than the real thing. There are no brakes.
Yeah. I mean, even in some cases, you mentioned about people getting back onto the lead lap. Think about it from the opposite. There's some people, of course, who get pinned a lap down because of safety cars. And that in itself is something that you have to pay attention to in racing. You've got to make sure if you're going to come onto pit road when the caution light's about to come on at the right time, so you don't end up potentially having to go down a lap. You don't have to deal with the what-if situations of your race being thrown into absurdity because of the actions of others.
Indeed. And Robert Jackman wants to start talking about pizza again.
No. No one's allowed to talk about pizza anymore because we've all had our pizza. Unless you are a massive sponsor asking us that we'd like to spend us lots of money about pizza. What pizza did you have, Rachel?
I had a it's rather nice.
Had a what?
3 meat pizza. There was ham, there was pepperoni, and there was spicy sausage. Great. If anybody out there is a purveyor of pizza, you wish to sponsor Raceport TV and have us talk about your amazing Italian cuisine, feel free to give us a call.
Yep. I can't mention one pizza I had because it's trademarked, but I can tell you about what's on it. It had meatballs, it had beef, it had chicken, it had pepperoni, and it had Cumberland sausage. It was very, very, very nice. And it had barbecue sauce on it as well. So incredibly nice stuff. 3 hours, 5 minutes to go. Let's run through your top 8 in each of the classes. And Danny Kane still leads away for the Autobahn Motorsports team. They have led now 167 laps of today's event. Jacob Lehman has led himself no laps. He's in P2 in the number 45 machine. Ruben Gutierrez is in 3rd. Andrew Hoffa in 4th. Paulo Brink for Radicals Online is in 5th. Then John Michael Guria in P6. Thomas Bidcher in 7th. Vincent Barim in the 8th position. Over to the GT division. And it is Bjorn Jens who is leading the way right now by 2 laps over the Red Devolution Racing team of Sen Delmo. Then it's Dexter Castro closing up in the 49 Motorsports A car. Then it is Phoenix Moonshine, Paul Tremblay, who is currently 10 seconds back. Ahead of the... he's behind, 10 seconds behind Castro. Then you've got yourself in P number 5, the Elixir Racing Team car of Jason Gerard. Then you've got Corsim Racing with Yuri Golkumhum. Then, finally, P7 Grip TV Nation, Mika Ulsus. P number 8 is 49 Motorsports B with Nicholas Bailey. So, that is going to conclude the second part of our coverage here on Raceport TV. Rachel Whiteford and I are going to take you through to the end of this motor race. We're going to step aside in just a moment. Going to do some things back of house, pull some plugs, put them into a new box, and then we'll get ready for the third part of our coverage. Live timing and scoring is available. Head over to racebot.tv/timing. Don't forget, also, for more information about all of the events that we broadcast, facebook.com/RaceBotTV, at RaceBotTV on Twitter, iRacing.com/live, and of course, on iRacing News. This has been a Raceport TV presentation, a special presentation of Raceport TV on iRacing Live of the iRacing.com Petit Le Mans. That's part 2. That is a total of 6 hours in the books. We'll come back for more in just one moment's time.